because the audio isn't right. Right? See, the
Mhm.
audio isn't right, and I need to re-record it, and then even then I might get a copyright strike. But who knows? But I
You know
am
what you
going
should
to
do
talk
instead?
about what we're not talking about while we're live, because that's how frustrated I am.
I know you should do instead.
Oh my
You should
goodness.
write a radio play style opening for the show, and
Mm.
I'll read it like a
Yeah, that-
radio
Hold on,
announcer.
Reese. I'm getting worried. Am I going to be able to get an word in edgewise tonight, or should I just duck out while I can?
No, you can get a word in edgewise.
Yeah.
We've already started, for not crying out loud.
Yeah,
You
we're
might
in.
as well say something. So it's the worst opening to the show ever, and I did it on purpose. You're welcome, fans, followers, viewers. Isaac, how are you doing?
People love a cold opening, you know?
Yeah. Sometimes it's too cold. It's too cold. Isaac says, has anyone read Deadpool versus Batman? That is actually on the list in probably a couple weeks.
Ironically.
I think next week we're looking at Dakota North, the fashion / noir detective Marvel series from the 80s, maybe early 90s. These guys don't know it yet, but I've already decided I'm gonna make them read it, or they can just not show up. First issue is really solid though. It's like only a
Don't
4-issue
threaten
series.
me with a good time.
Yeah, it's really good. I really enjoyed the first issue. So I recently, as in like a year and a half ago, the other day, bought the rest of the miniseries, but I haven't taken the time to read it yet, and I'm making that excuse. Ichthus, hello. What is up? Total excellence. Let's hope so. We're about to find out. We are today. Something I sprung on everybody last minute. We're gonna go ahead and talk about Batman, the Court of Owls, and we all talked about why I wanted to do this book. Does anybody want to have their opinion before I explain myself?
Well, I want to be clear. I want to set this out. We are only talking about the Court of Owls, not the continuing storyline, because this is kind of the opening of a storyline. We won't be talking about Night of the Owls. We won't be talking about Talon of the Court of the Owls, any of the other things that continue the story. We won't be getting into Nightwing. We won't be getting into Red Hood and the Outlaws. We won't be getting into Catwoman. All of these books were carrying this story that you were... After this little kind of trade paperback that we're going through, you miss everything if you're not reading that. Even some from Nightwing that was going on at the same time as this. So all of our opinions were flavored just by Court of the Owls.
I actually would like to talk a little bit about that Nightwing storyline, or at the very least, we need to dedicate a second night to it.
Yeah. Well, I think talking a little bit about it is essential because okay. So when we read Hush, we went through it, and you guys might remember that I said maybe I just don't like Batman. This was not almost that one. I did not hate this story as much as I dislike Hush. And maybe it's low because I didn't like Long Halloween revisiting it. Although after reading this story, I have more of a fondness for Long Halloween, believe it or not. And I really didn't like Hush, and I sort of like this a little bit. There are elements.
It had potential.
There are
it
elements
had a lot
of 7 issues that I really liked, right? And there are some things that I just cannot get over hating.
Yeah. No, I think we're probably in the same boat there.
So, Hutch, you did not finish, right? Because of my last minuteness.
He's trying hard. He's trying.
Yeah, I'm somewhere in like part 3 or 4. I'm about halfway.
Okay.
I got to the part where he found the owl cave, I guess, for the lack of a better term, the equivalent of his own bat cave, but it's for the Talon, the bad guy. But so I have not read the end, and I understand that you're going to spoil the end, but it doesn't really matter because it isn't an end, from what I understand, because we just said it goes on and on and on. And in that way, I know this is a blasphemy to some of you, but it reminds me of that Wonder Woman story that we had many installments reviewing, where it has this king of America who is the secret king that has been ruling America ever. It's like, well, it's an interesting story. I want it to be played through, and I hope that that's found to be a lie or something. And instead, it goes on for 2 years, and is kind of doesn't really have an objective. It's sort of it's kind of like Lost, where I'm sure we'll come up with an ending for it when we get to it, and it just meanders around with basic ideas of getting to the ending. Court of Owls kind of, if it's true, it kind of goes into this book and that book, and it goes on forever. It's kind of the same thing. It's not so much a fun little story in Batman. It's almost the new Batman premise.
Well, remember, this all started the New 52.
Yeah.
So it kind of was. That was
and so and this comes into part of my problem with it. I don't know if I want to get into it first. So one thing I want to go ahead and talk about, though, is a little bit of context in terms of the overall frame. Ichthus says, I picked up the Court of Owls from the DC Compact, which are their
That's basically what we're reading today.
Right?
More or less.
It's the first part. The first part. Because the Court of Owls Compact is the first three-parter. The Court of Owls, Night of Owls, and Death in the Family, and Death of the Family, that set up the paradigm for the New 52 Batman, that are all in that digest volume, I guess. Which, or at least some section of them are all in that digest volume.
Some of this was in Birds of Prey. Like this, it was a Bat Family book. You're talking about like setting up for the New 52. Right. It was all over everything that was in the Bat Family.
And see, and here's part of the thing is, so the premise of the story is that this is Batman, and this is Batman in the New 52 timeline. And guys, help me remember this, because I was going to look it up and forgot. Right? So the by the time they launched the New 52, the DC timeline had been 12 or 15 years between today and the introduction of Batman and Superman, right? It was
more or less.
Years.
So it started off already in motion. Like it was a remade world that already had the history of things before it.
But that's what I'm saying is, so before the New 52 starts, the timeline is about, I think, 15 years. 15 years ago is when Batman year one happens. It's when Superman comes to Metropolis.
Yeah, right? we're in a Batman that's already had Dick with him. There was already the death of Jason. Tim's already been there, and Damian's in the picture.
But I believe they also kind of crunched the timeline together, because
and that's what I was getting to.
I think even Dick Grayson is only supposed to be like 18, 19 years old.
Right. My understanding is that it's supposed to be that the New 52 timeline has all of these events, but they're supposed to happen in 5 years.
Right.
More or less, yeah.
That's my understanding. And so Dick was only Robin for like 16 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? Tim has been Robin for about 4 minutes, and Damian just showed up, right?
Yeah.
And
pretty much.
Jason's been dead for about 12 minutes, and then somehow came back to life all grown up. And like the whole because he's only like a couple years ago. I mean,
he's already doing stuff, right? Red Hood and the Outlaws is one of the stories involved in this,
right? So he's
Barbara Gordon got out of the wheelchair.
Yeah, and Barbara Gordon, exactly, and she's now younger than Dick somehow through magic. But she was also a congressman, sort of, kind of, and depending on whether or not the artist or the writer wanted to pick up on that timeline or not, that thread or not. And like because she's super genius.
Right.
And
I like the excuse for all this too is it's basically afterwards Flash ended up in a time like, this is more or less how I remember everything being.
Yeah. Right.
I have no idea what that's referring to, because I kind of left comics before that.
That was
it was
that
like
was
the whole
Flashpoint
Flashpoint,
event.
and he had to get back to a timeline that was the one he came from. So it was really all dependent on him remembering everything being in the right place.
But he doesn't know everything about everybody's lives.
Exactly.
And it also doesn't make any sense anyway, because Barry was gone from that continuity for 15 years. Well, no, not 15, 10 years.
Yeah.
Probably 10 years.
But I think that's also why they just can write off almost everything.
Yeah, so it's all just nonsense and malarkey, and I hate it all.
can I just mention, if you don't mind me jumping in just for a second,
please.
Understanding that you reminded me that the New 52 squishes all the Robins and Batman's history. His entire history is 5 years now. That explains why I thought it was an art mistake, why Dick Grayson now only comes up to Batman's shoulder.
Yeah.
And he's a full-grown man. In all the comics that I know, he's basically a few inches shorter than Bruce Wayne.
By the time the New 52 was ending, I remember reading a Batgirl comic where she was just now entering college.
Yeah, the Batgirl of Burnside thing that Gail Simone did. She was a freshman at the Burnside Women's College or some nonsense like that. I don't know.
It wasn't a bad book though, actually.
Well,
there's one thing Gail Simone can do. It's write Batgirl.
It wasn't a bad book as long as you've never ever read a Batgirl book before. Sorry to be super judgy, but come on. Anyway.
No, agreed.
So the other thing is like I don't mind Dick being short, right? Because he's supposed to be like from this acrobatic gypsy stock, so he wouldn't be a tall. And
well,
Batman,
and it's not necessarily that he's short
6'2".
as much as that. Batman is always this massive chiseled thing.
Right. But Batman should be a solid 6'2", right? And so that's my size. That's
been his height for generations.
Yeah, and so Superman is a little taller than Batman, and like Joker's like 6'5", right?
Yeah. Well, Supes is about 6'5". Joker ranges.
Yeah.
He could be anywhere between an inch shorter at 6'1" to up to about 6'5". It really depends who is drawing or writing Joker.
That's fair.
He's got Bowser's superpower.
But anyway, point being though is like my biggest issue with this thing was just how young Bruce looked when I first started reading the book. And I had to remember, it's because he's only supposed to be like, in his like 31, 32-year-old hip Bruce Wayne swinging singles guy. And I hate that so much. I like Batman to be a little grizzled. I like him to have some years on him, right?
Yeah. How does he have a 12-year-old son?
Well, he was so even with the original timeline, Damian was artificially aged.
Yeah.
So that's part of the thing is so Damian's like biologically or I said chronologically like 6 and biologically like 12, 13.
Yeah.
See, but he should be more like Impulse, who was, remember Impulse when he was first introduced was aging aggressively, and so he's still like a toddler in terms of education because he is not educated because he's going too fast.
And the difference is, I think that that Damian's premature aging was interrupted with beatings. So I think he was brought out. Yeah. He was given harsh lessons. Sped up, put it back in the box, brought out, beaten up by ninjas, back in the box. And
but they got to teach him English and writing sometime. I mean,
this is a superhero universe. Everyone speaks English, no matter where.
It actually almost matches though, because Damian has the worst impulse control and the worst temper out of any Robin there's been, even like some of the retconned versions of Jason when he was younger. Yeah. And it kind of matches the fact that he's not as old as he physically is.
Yep.
Right.
And it also makes sense why he is older than John's original age, and yet they were like bosom companions because they had.
And then John got accelerated.
Oh, let's not talk about that.
Everybody gets age accelerated. They hate it.
Except the old guys. They get age.
We're talking about. Right, this thing we're talking about right here actually brings up some of the problems that I'll get into when we get there. But this is a Batman that doesn't act as experienced as he is. And I know his time's been crunched, but he still has all the experiences of the stuff that's been crunched in that time. And in the second half of this trade paperback, this collection of stuff, he does things that just do not make sense, even in some of the first half too.
You mean setting off the tripwire at the HQ that blows it up?
Well, there's part of that too, but also his adamant belief that this thing that could be a superstition doesn't actually exist just because he looked into in the past. It's that's something I can see maybe year one Batman being really hard up about. But somebody with the experience he has not so much. And like, I want to get into it too much until we get to those points, but there are plenty of points where I'm like, a Batman with that amount of experience should not be doing that. That doesn't match the character, the amount of experience.
Right. So, and that actually brings up so many of the things that I want to talk about. But so many of the things I want to talk about. So let's go and talk about my biases. Because it's my show. From the very first moment I heard of the story and heard of the premise, I hated this idea. I hate deep wells of flaming passion from the very center of my being. Hated the story. And can you guess why?
Well, if I'm assuming it's similar to what Hutch has already told us about, is simply the realization that this has been here all this time and Batman's never known about it.
No, I think that could fit in a Batman story if you do it right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It could be, but it would be really hard to fit in. But yeah, mostly it's the idea that, like, okay, so Batman is the world's greatest detective, right? And yet this has been going on forever, and he never knew about it. And the story knows you're going to notice this, so it says, "Oh, they never presented themselves to you before," and it's just like, yeah, just like every criminal Batman's been hunting down for the last 5 years.
Yeah. See, I think the problem is the whole Bat God thing that was introduced by Jim Morrison, where Batman isn't just. See, I've always seen him as a Renaissance man. He's a little bit trained at everything, and he's really good at some stuff. But remember, any like thing that he's good at, there are people who practice that every day for all day. So he's not going to be as good at judo as somebody who just practices judo every day all the time. He's not going to be as good at whatever it is. There are experts who are better than him at everything. And even the world's greatest detective thing is, I mean, we don't really know that compared to, he's never been in a competition. We just call him that.
Yeah.
And he's good at tracking down a case. It doesn't mean that he is omni-aware of everything everywhere.
Yeah, to be the world's greatest detective,
but
it just means that he has to crack more cases than anybody else has cracked. That's all you got to do. You don't necessarily have to be better than any individual. You just have to have finished more cases.
And there actually was a test in a Batman annual, where Batman is sent. He gets this clue that comes in, and he goes to track it down, and he can't do it. That's right. So he goes to get Ralph Dibny's help, and Ralph and Batman together solve follow these puzzles around the world, these clues around the world, and end up discovering Sherlock Holmes, who set out to find the world's greatest detectives.
Yeah, that wasn't an annual. That was an anniversary edition of Detective Comics, and it was great.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, Moriarty's nuking the royal family.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
It's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing. So you're right. When I say the world's greatest detective, I'm obviously not trying to throw shade at Ralph, because
no, I'm not even looking at it that way.
But my thing with it is that and the first 2 or 3 issues, probably the first 2 issues, you have some really solid evidence of Batman's detective work, right? He's taking samples, he's analyzing them, he's looking for motives, he's just and I really
liked about this.
I was digging it. I was like, hey guys, do you remember how I kept talking about how I wanted to have a Batman story? There's detective work going on. I'm loving it. And then, right, Snyder starts peppering all of these hints to his made-up fairy tale, like everyone knew what it was, right? Now, granted, you're gonna do that in the world of the comic so that you lay it out there, right? But it gets brought up, this little fairy tale, this little nursery rhyme about the Court of Owls, that's used to scare Gotham children, apparently, is so ubiquitous, right?
Yeah.
In this story, in the beginning of the story, because what we've got that there is Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's so ubiquitous that like when Batman declares incredulity, like this can't possibly exist. I looked into it for my own purposes. You're like, like, how? What? That's like saying that that Mary, Mary, quite contrary, definitely never happened because it's too weird. Except that it 100% did.
Here's my thing about this story, and again, I'm not finished with it, but it doesn't finish anyway. The way that I mean, I understand they're launching a new Batman #1 for the new 52, and they want to open big. So I get that. If this were Denny O'Neil, planning the next year, but kind of like how they did Nightfall and that kind of thing, they had an annual Batman conference and talked about. I would have. I mean, if they weren't trying to do this as issue #1, I would have spent half a year to a year building up to this, setting little hints about this. Oh, you ever hear this thing about the owls, and introducing that guy who's now running for mayor, as that he doesn't just come in on issue 1 of the new Court of Owls story. It's just. Do you remember Captain Fear, the Chuck Dixon's Captain Fear that was a villain?
Oh,
and he was building to that because he was setting up Bruce Wayne's neighbor who showed up in other stories from time to time, and he was going to pay off that's the guy who is Captain Fear. And for whatever reason, the editors are like, we don't like this Captain Fear, drop it. And he's like, drop it. I've been laying all the clues for this thing and I don't get to pay it off. It bugged him, but that's how it should be done. You should be building to this. And, around 9 issues in, you launch the Court of Owls. You build to it, kind of like Marv Wolfman when he started, Teen Titans. He built to the Brother Blood stories and the, all those sorts of. I mean, how long did it take to introduce Tara and then suddenly introduce that she's a spy? Many issues in, and that all paid off a year later.
And it would have been easy to do something like this by having lots of engaging mysteries that you're solving in 1 or 2 issues.
Yeah.
And having just that little teaser at the end of the issue to lay the groundwork for the next issue and the issue after that.
Hide owls in panels all throughout the issues and stuff like that.
Yeah.
See, and that would have made it more engaging from a reader's perspective. But my problem is with the world building that it sets up. Right? Because so the story, for those of you who don't know, the premise is that there is a secret society of masquerade villains who have been running Gotham City for the reals for like 200 years, like maybe 250, like back to post-colonial.
Well, because they said Gotham's a city with 400 years of history.
Yeah.
So it might even go all the way back to that.
It might go all the way back. And so you've got these elites that are running things. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the backstory, and they don't really talk about it. So the first clue to these guys is they open up in this weird scene where Batman is in situ, is in the middle of an adventure where he is fighting all of the villains in Arkham Asylum. And let me go ahead and show this. It's actually a really fun panel, sort of, kind of, where you first meet everybody. There's Croc. There's, the Professor Pig or whatever it is.
Right, Professor PYG Pig,
which is he's a stupid character.
Yeah.
I hate him.
A lot of fun characters are actually here. Classics. We got all the old guys.
There's Riddler. There's Mr. Freeze. There's something because there's a
Riddler has his hair carved into a question mark, and he has tattoos of questions.
Ooh, nice and edgy. Great. Anyway, so the point is with this scene is that there's this fight, this knockdown, drag out fight in Arkham Asylum because they reveal that one of the guards let all these guys out because Batman was about to expose him for working for the mob because it's all part of a thing. And I'm not sure how that all worked in there because we didn't get that story. We got the end of that story, and it's fine. Whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, because it probably wouldn't have been a super interesting story. Like, if it was a one-off, you wouldn't care. It'd be interesting enough, but not really like a Batman #1 story.
Right. But maybe. I don't know. Maybe you're right on that one. It seemed really interesting to me. I was when they put
the ending
together.
seems interesting, right? Like maybe if this was like the end of the 5th issue of a story, I don't know. But for a single one, you'd have to think of how crammed it'd have to be to get to that point. And it's just about a guy who's getting paid off by the mob.
Right. Right. I mean, and that's fairly run of the mill. But any case, Batman solves the crime, and the parlor room scenes that explain the solving of the crime, I found really engaging. I'm like, okay, we're getting in. You know, I've been super like suspicious, really, like I you know, my gut's been hating this thing for so long, but maybe it's going to be in itself a really good story because these parlor rooms to the prologue I'm really digging on, and there is some great action here too, right? That from these fight panels they're just some super fun stuff, right? Now I will say the narrative that accompanies it is a little kind of doofy, like it's a try hard.
Yeah, it's like I like the fact that we're getting this like noir style narration of Batman talking to the audience, but the actual stuff being said isn't really like high quality.
Yeah, it is very much in the vein of somebody who really loves to hear themselves talk. You know, so I'm in a total position to judge this. Right? But the overall the story, I mean, I really enjoyed that. That part of it, like I was like, okay, maybe we're going to be getting a setup that I can really get behind, right? And so then after the scene, we're introduced to the Bat family, and we get to meet Nightwing, and we get to meet Red Robin, and we get to meet the real the other Robin. And interrupting myself for my little rant. I hate the Red Robin thing. I despise it. Red Robin, yum. I hate it. It's so silly. It's so ridiculous. It's just once again, you know, the poison that is the systemic poison that is Kingdom Come infecting itself into the DC universe, and boy, everybody's liking that joke, which is great, which is fine. I just can't stand it though. It's such a dumb name. It's a dumb hero name. It's a restaurant. The costume wasn't very good. It was okay in Kingdom Come as in Elseworlds, but when you import that into the DC universe, it doesn't make any sense. Like there's no reason for Tim to keep being a superhero if you've incorporated Damian into the universe. And for the love of Pete, why would he have to still be a Robin? I mean, Tim had, I mean, Dixon had the right idea with moving him toward being the next Blue Beetle, and that would have made a ton more sense. But no, like.
Honestly, I could have seen Tim just like giving up the vigilante stuff and be like, "I'm gonna go be a real PI or something," you know?
Yes. Yeah. Or just a lawyer, right?
Like, or just a student with a girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I tell you, I think I've told you guys this. Like my ultimate, like if I was in charge, if I ever got Denny's job, right?
Yeah.
My direction for the grown up, for the next generation is Tim goes to law school. He gets himself a job as an assistant DA. He settles down with Stephanie. She's going to keep doing the superhero thing till she croaks, and they just have a life together that way. Mm-hmm. And like that's cool. That's the backup in a Batman comic is the adventures of Tim and Stephanie. I think what you're
forgetting is for a lot of people, Tim Drake not only reinvented Robin Forever, but he was their introduction to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So people love Tim, and they love Tim's Robin.
Mm-hmm.
And
you know he could never.
Not
really
easy to
retire.
take that away from people, right?
Yeah. If he did retire, he'd always be pulled back into
Right.
That's what you would build to in a storyline. All of a sudden he comes back. It's like, I'm okay.
Yeah. Well,
you
and
pull back in.
I think Dave Ashanovich has got a great thing. They could just give him a name inspired by Will Scarlet, as Robin was inspired by Robin Hood.
Mhm.
Like, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
So Scarlet Robin.
No, we're getting away from the bird thing entirely.
No, I think we need more birds. I think we're gonna call him the Cardinal now.
Oh my god. Tim joins the papacy. There actually is a comic called The Cardinal about a Catholic superhero, and he's bird themed, but he's also a Catholic.
That's great.
And they're pretty good. They're syndicated and they show up in some newspapers and stuff. They're pretty good. I read about 6 months of the strip one time. Sat down to it, and it's not bad.
So I want to take this moment to address something you had said in the chat, because we were kind of talking about this a little, and I pointed out that even later on in Rebirth, even though he retained the name Red Robin, that they kind of gave him back his old classic Robin costume just because it's so iconic and that's what people love. And then you said that, and now I'm very curious.
Well, I'd have to do a picture study, and I don't have one prepared.
Pull them up.
The thing is what DC basically did was give Tim's Robin costume to Dick, and that's like that Dick's costume, just like they did in Batman the Animated Series, and then they give Tim's Robin's costume. Tim gets what's basically a t-shirt and pants costume. It's red. It's got the sort of kind of the R that Neil Adams designed, but it doesn't have the same tactical look. It doesn't have the same kind of boots. The cape isn't the same. It's similar, but it's not the same. And it just looks like workout gear. He's just going to the gym in his Robin shirt, and I just don't.
I'm not familiar with this. I feel like we're thinking of two different images here.
Yeah, it's got weird black stripes in places, and I don't care for it. Care for it all. But anyway, enough about that, because I'd have to get a picture study together for it. And I don't have that prepared, and I don't want to do it right now.
So I'm going to bring up what I know.
So, anyhow, we meet the Bat family, and there's this big dinner, and we're at this big ball that they go to, and we're introduced to Mason something or other. I don't remember the guy's name, but he's the next. He's the guy petitioning or running to be the next mayor of Gotham, and he's a larger, beefier looking. Here's the guy.
Yeah, he looks like
March.
a bigger Bruce almost.
He looks like a bigger Bruce.
Yeah. He really needs
this
to be
makes me wonder how short
a little
Bruce
more
is
distinguished from Bruce. I wish that there was something that made him look a little more different from Bruce.
Yeah, if Bruce was his normal 6'2", this guy's got to be like 6'6".
Yeah. 6'6", 6'7", even.
Yeah.
He needs to seem intimidating to someone as intimidating as Batman.
Well, yeah.
If I saw this, I would think that that's Bruce meeting Dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm not told what I'm looking at, I'd say that's Bruce Wayne on the right. That's Dick, and they're.
I actually had to reread this image, and there's
What's
a whole panel the first time I saw it. I had to reread it and to see what boxes were coming from what, and then I saw the Lincoln March on the side. I thought Bruce actually just fixed his hair and was talking to somebody else.
Right.
Well, and that's crazy. Is like they also get this guy's put together. He seems more put together.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No. Batman is not short like Wolverine. This guy's supposed to be like a giant, I guess. He's one of the Nephilim or something. I don't know. So actually, no, that's
yeah.
His real
but
story
I'm always leery of these stories that how many of them have we done where there is somebody introduced who's a pivotal part of Bruce's world, but we've never met them before today. An old friend that he's had since his parents died, but then and they disappeared. Now he's back, and that's how Hush begins. And they've done that for I don't know how many other storylines. The first Legend of the Dark Knight was about something that's like suddenly paid off. The first Legends of the Dark Knight story arc, which had like when he's going to a boys' school and there's like a boy's severed head in the trash in front of him. You remember that story? Way back when.
Well, I mean, it gets worse when you find out more and more about this character that's like past this book.
Yeah.
Okay. I
got that spoiled for me, and it's infuriating. It's mind numbing.
But anyway, I knew there's going to be something up with this guy.
This is Thomas Wayne Jr., or at least he believes he's Thomas Wayne Jr.
Oh,
so we talked about losing his.
So that's the ending of this story. Is that the ending?
No, that's actually not even in this.
Oh, okay.
That's way after it, but it is connected to it because he is Owlman / the Talon, so on and so forth. He's got several. Well, a Talon. He's got several different aliases to him.
If I may, I thought it was rather clever using an owl for a villain for Batman because, as they explain, the owl is the bat's natural predator. So having this guy be bigger and be able to look down on Bruce as this intimidating figure does make at least visual sense here.
Yeah. Because Killer Moth as the anti-Batman never made sense because bats eat moths.
I think that was the joke.
Why are you killer food?
Well, I think that was the joke because Killer Moth is supposed to be a joke, right?
Yeah.
That's part of it.
I was thinking that was only like brought in with the comics.
I mean,
they've made him more of a fool over the years, but he's got a very hideous costume. But the basic idea of a Batman for the criminals is a cool idea. And if it was done right,
idea, but it's also a funny idea.
It's okay.
Yeah. That was the funny thing about it. Is like he wanted to be a Batman for the criminals, so he wanted to do everything Batman did, and so he was just riffing off of the whole bit, and that made it funny.
Right.
I think this is just because it's on my mind. This is exaggerated visualization. The official height given for Thomas Wayne Jr. / Lincoln March is only 6'4".
So he's just supposed to be 2 inches taller.
Yeah.
That's nonsense. My brother's 6'4".
If there's one thing,
so everyone thinks I'm taller.
If there is one thing I have learned from being a tall person myself, it's that you add 1/2 of an inch on someone, and suddenly you're looking up, like craning your neck, like, what are you, 19 feet taller than me?
Yep.
Yeah. Now, I should mention that now that I know that this is Thomas Wayne Jr., or he claims to be, he's basically stealing Bane's bit. If you remember when Bane was introduced, that there was an American doctor who was visiting for a time, and then Bane was born. And that meant a lot of people were spinning stories about how this is young Thomas Wayne traveling, and then finally I think Scott Beatty was allowed to pay it off because Chuck was gone by that time, but he had always planned it to reveal that it was the what's his name? Is it King Snake or something like that? That was one of the other King Snake, the blonde royal guy who's also a doctor. So they finally paid it off, but it was after a long time of hinting that maybe this is also Batman's brother.
Oh,
so now you've got another Batman's brother.
They also have refused to acknowledge whether he actually is or not to this day. Like Bruce has never gotten his DNA to test it or anything, which sounds very unlike Bruce to be able to do. You think he would have gotten it at some point, but they still refuse to acknowledge whether he actually is Thomas Wayne Jr. or not.
That sounds like them trying to avoid a noodle incident.
So here's from the chat. Owlman was supposed to stay in Earth 3. He owes Killer Moth $45. That's great. But yeah, so here's the thing that comes. The whole thing about the story. You're right. He's stealing Bane's bit, right? Mm-hmm. But he's also stealing Hush's bit, and the whole Court of Owls is just like an Americanized Order of Saint Dumas. Like all this. As much as I love the beginning of way the thing sets it up, and the detective work after they find the first body, which we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah.
As much as I really, really enjoy that stuff, and the detective work that goes up into it through the thing, like halfway through, it's obvious that they're just riffing on other stories that have already been done. Now,
even Killer Moth's bit, Killer Moth was identical to Batman. He has his own vehicle. He has his own headquarters. He has his own, but it's all moth themed. And it's the same thing.
Well, and there's only so many stories, right? I mean, we've talked about this before. Like, there's only so many stories that you can tell, and everything. And so I'm not trying to be just harsh because it's obviously derivative,
right?
But the problem that I come to is that in the derivations of it, right? It seems like writers are creating their own new characters at the chance of that payout, rather than, and in doing that, they're reinventing the universe so they can have their name on the things that might get put into the movies or might get put into the video games, rather than actually dwelling within the world that they're possessed, that they're writing in.
There is the excuse that this is a new version of the world, so if you were going to do it at any time, now would be the time. But then that brings back my problem that if this was a truly new version, like if we were going back to maybe, well, you might still want Dick in the picture for this to work because of certain plot points. So maybe not a year one Batman, but still a very early career Batman. It might work more. The excuse is that you would have missed some things and everything stuff, but not
this
here.
Is a good point. Well, and I agree 100%. This is a big thing to point out. Well, kind of what I kept thinking about it is if this was a story that was happening consecutive with The Long Halloween, consecutive with year 2, year 3, right? So one of the things we talked about at The Long Halloween was it seemed like there was so much of nothing happening, right? And how can Batman not be noticing what's going on? And Twitless said, this is just one case, and you got to think that Batman's doing a ton of stuff. And so I started thinking about it that way, right? And what if this story, right? Because in Long Halloween, it implies the introduction of the Joker and a bunch of these other costumed villains just before the story kicks off in June, right? So you've got the timeline. You've got year 1, and then that's October, December is when Joker's introduced. They're off screen, and then tick, 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 and it's July when Catwoman shows up again a year later into the Falcones thing, and then all around for another year and a half to the end of Long Halloween, right? Well, if this was happening then, right? And if
it explained why he'd be so distracted and all the other things,
right? And so then it would make sense of why Batman is missing clues, why he's so pompous, why he's missing details. In both cases, in this case, we'd get a chance to see him flex those investigative muscles and be learning these sort of things. But there's lots of room for him to make errors, and for him having discovered the this secret society at an early point in his career makes sense, right? And so
absolutely,
I keep thinking about it. I'm like, oh man, that would be super cool, right? I'm like, I would have 100% like virtually everything that happens in this story. If it was happening in year 3, right, year 2, year 3 in that category, I would be over the moon about it. Like I don't think there's a single thing that happens in this story that I wouldn't love if this was Batman.
Yeah, I was thinking basically the same thing the whole time I'm reading it.
What?
As I'm basically thinking the exact same thing the whole time I'm reading it. If like this was in that earlier point, this would be great.
And it would be such a growing moment. But what we have is a Batman who spends 4 books, maybe 5, talking about how he knows every nook and cranny of Gotham and how it's his city, and he knows all the streets. He's been down all the roads. It's the okay, I'm gonna be a super nerd. I wrote a poem years and years ago, and it goes foot on concrete, foot on stone. That is how you get to know the town you live, you call your home. Foot on concrete, foot on stone, right? And that's the feeling that Batman evokes throughout the first 4 books in this series, right? And then he discovers that inside of all these buildings that were built by his great grandfather, who redid the skyline of Gotham City. That all of these they've got a hidden 13th floor, and that's where the secret bases of the Talons are. The Talons are these assassins that work for the Court of Owls. And for the sake of record, we ought to somebody. Let me see if I can't find it here. Let me drop this off the screen because it'll be weird. Look at me. I'm going to read the fairy tale or the little thing if I can find
the nursery rhyme.
Nursery rhyme. Oh, before I do that though, here's Harvey Bullock, who I love, but why does it look like Bullock. AI drew this guy?
I mean, I don't think AI would have been good enough to draw a person at that time. This is 2000.
No, I don't actually think he did. But the cigar doesn't line up with the mouth at all.
Yeah,
it's just floating out there in space. This is a.
Oh no! I think what you're looking at, his teeth are showing from underneath the top of his mouth. Biting
maybe.
down on the cigar.
Yeah, maybe I looked at it a bunch of times.
The cigar looks like a piece of paper, though. There's like no depth to the cigar.
It's a dopey look, and then to repeat it, without a change in expressions that you're just copy pasting.
That was something that I thought I noticed. I was laughing at that when I had to look at that panel like 4 or 5 times. But anyway,
I really liked the portrayal of Bullock in this story specifically. The few times he shows up.
The smoke doesn't even move between the 2 panels.
Nope.
It doesn't change shape at all. It's just copy pasted. That's lazy.
Yep.
And guys, look at this thing right here. Okay, so here's the clue in this scene. I gotta share it. This is one of the. It's really clever, but it's too clever by half. So they smell linseed oil, and they're like, "What's with all this linseed oil we're smelling and this oil painting that we see?" And so he says, "Harvey, give me your cigar." And Harvey's like, "Okay," because when you're a cigar smoker, you're always handing it to the guy next to you. And then he lights it up, and look, it says Bruce Wayne will die tomorrow, and that's a part of a whole mystery thing, and that's really clever. Except that linseed oil doesn't burn like this, and I'm going to presume that somebody who writes comics knows artists who should be able to tell him that that's not how linseed oil burns.
Also, linseed oil dries out. So a big part of this is that this was done over a week or so ago, whatever, when this guy, because it's 5 to 6 days from the time of death. And then it's on the 2nd of the month or whatever, every month the guy comes in and checks. So they know when they're going to find the body. That's when that sets tomorrow. The linseed oil would have been dried out to the point that it wouldn't have lit up by then.
And I didn't even think about that, but all thinners that are used in paint dry out really fast.
Oh yeah.
So
what bothered me about that is that it bugs me when Bullock is not treated like a detective.
Yes.
I wish that every now and then he would say, because they use it as a thinner or something like it's just showing. Yes, he's a detective. He's a lazy slob, but he's a detective.
Yeah, it would be great if it was something like, "Hey, you want to see this? This is what I've figured out before you got here," and then he hands some clues off to Batman to work with.
Yeah,
right. Somebody who's already done some legwork for him. He's like, "I'm a detective. This is my job. It's what I do."
Yeah. I hate that the cops are always they can't make any progress whatsoever. Batman is entirely up to them,
Well, it's not just in Batman. That's in all superheroes.
Well, true, but Batman particularly, yeah.
The only one who's allowed to actually be competent half the time, depending on the writer, is Commissioner Gordon. He's allowed to be kind of competent. Everybody else can't be.
Let's see. I think I actually scrolled by it here. No, not yet. Oh, shoot. Where'd it go?
I'm sorry. Who is the I hate to say this. Who's the black guy with the Batman costume and the glow in the dark logo?
Oh, that's Lucius Fox's other kid. Luke Fox. Something.
Oh, geez.
Who becomes Batwing?
Batwing. Oh, Batwing. That's right. I completely put that out of my mind.
Is the worst name ever.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing. It's okay, we got bat this, bat that. It's the kind of the shtick. Okay, so let's go ahead and name ourselves by the airplane.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So here's the
Yeah.
thing.
I mean, his kind of looks like the airplane, to be fair.
I
have-
didn't recognize him. I know that he's like another the Batman family is just too big. You
It
know?
is.
I don't
really
think
There's
it's
too
too
many
big,
people
but
that
I
let into the
do.
Batcave.
I like the bigness of the Batman family, but I do believe in what I call the law of conservation of good names. And that is, there can only be so many good Batman character names going around at any one time, right? So, as they
Yeah,
attempt
so
to
let's
keep
cut half of them.
So I disagree with the idea that the Batman family is too big,
Hmm.
but I also agree with the idea that there are too many people with the keys to Batcave, right?
Yeah.
Because because here's the thing is when you really break it down, right? Back when I started reading comic books, the Bat family had recently shrunk from a size of somewhere north of 10 to like 3, because Batman and the Outsiders ran for years, and they're all technically part of the Bat family.
Yeah.
But none of them had the keys to the Batcave.
I don't even like Barbara having keys to the Batcave. She has to set an appointment to show up, if you ask me.
Yeah,
Actually, they were actually in a auxiliary bat cave.
they had their own. They had their own
yeah.
headquarters. Right.
But
right.
yes, they all know his ID. The number of people who know his ID is really ridiculous.
Right.
It's just they say about you can't have a conspiracy with more than 3 people. It's and like half his villains now know who he is.
Yeah.
It's too many. Yeah.
They often make jokes about that in fiction. It's like everybody knows your secret.
So anyway, one of the things I have not found that stupid nursery rhyme. Why is that so hard? It's all over the place, and I'm trying to.
Well, it's
find
also only said in a single bubble, once. Every other time, it's cut up between either Bruce finishing somebody else starting it, or a couple of different panels or whatever. There's only one time that the whole thing is all together right next to itself.
Yeah.
Does Bat Cow have the keys? Probably.
Well, and then Bat Cow. That's hilarious. The other thing that I found really oh man, there's so many things. Yeah, there's just oh shoot, come on, where the heck did I find the thing? Oh, here we go. Beware the court of owls that watches all the time, ruling from the shadowed perch behind the granite and lime. They watch you at your hearth. They watch you in your bed. Speak not a whispered word of them, or they'll send the Talon. So it's so incredibly on the nose. And Bruce is like, oh, yes, this doesn't exist, right? Even though he's fought the Talon.
But that's actually still not even the end. There's also a couple extra words. It's it was either to take your head or to make you dead or something like that. It did end with a rhyme.
Right. There you go. But like I said, so Bruce is the whole scene. Like when we first are introduced to the owl themes, and there's the body that's been killed by all of these things, then the body doesn't have any. There's no
throwing
papers.
Knives.
There's by knives, by like a dozen throwing knives. And there's no papers. There's no record of this other dude who's dead that they find, and he's reached out to Dick for reasons that nobody is clear on, and he's got these engraved throwing knives, which are actually kind of cool looking, with this little owl crest on them, right?
Yeah, obviously to be parallels to the Batarangs,
right? And this happens, and Bruce has this because he had recently. I mean, he'd been this Talon guy, broke into one of his great-great-grandfather's buildings and tried to kill him and threw him out of this shatterproof window, which they make a big deal out of. And it's a dramatic scene. And it's fun. It's fun. Let's face it. And
Hutch, did you
And
get
so
to the part where you have to start reading the pages?
Yeah,
sideways?
you know why I have my head sideways.
Yeah.
Oh, that's that.
I
that
told
part's
you about
terrible.
that.
Yes.
I had it on the tablet because
So you could rotate everything around, especially when they go
Well, and
upside down. That probably
I
was
locked
helpful.
the rotation on the tablet so I could do this number because it
Yeah.
actually gets upside down at one point.
Yeah. I'm sure it was fine if you actually had a physical copy of this book, but trying to read it on a digital screen that's mounted to your desk is a pain in the butt.
Yeah, it's clever in that way.
Yeah.
But anyway, the thing is so Alan Wayne, Bruce's great grandfather, was this big architect they had about. But here's the thing that gets me crazy. Several of the building designs that they use are clearly inspired by Anton Furst's designs that didn't get used in Batman the movie, that were then rehabbed into Gotham City in the I think it was called the Siege story, if I remember right. I might be wrong about the name of it, but there was a 3-issue story arc, and I was going to fish it out, but I didn't take the time, in Batman and Detective back in 1992, where somebody is going through and blowing up buildings in Gotham City. And the destruction of these buildings, it's like a demolitions expert. And the demolition of these buildings is exposing all these forgotten buildings that were built by Solomon Wayne, who is Bruce Wayne's great grandfather, right? So so this story, Court of Owls, Bruce has a plan, and it's outlined in issue 1 where he's going to restore all these buildings to prime condition, and that's when he gets the attention of the Court of Owls, because in rehabbing these buildings, they're going to discover all the owl bases.
Yeah,
right?
all the 13th floors. I did like that part. Where it's like the fact that all of this is built around superstition, and that it is that old superstition that buildings shouldn't have a 13th floor, so they'll often leave like a dead floor or whatever. That was pretty cool. I liked that was in there.
Like I said, but the one thing is so you're taking this plot point, Snyder, from this old I'm trying to remember who did it was Aparo and I can't remember who did the art, but I'm trying to remember who did the writing on that one. I think it may have been Monk. But anyway, this great old story, you're taking these plot points from this other story, and you're incorporating into your story, and I think that story was better. And then you're attributing it, but you're taking it, and you're attributing it to a different crazy Wayne ancestor, right? Because you're going to tie him into this whole Court of Owls nonsense. And I guess maybe you're not using the other ancestor because he was supposed to be like this superstitious, like hyper Catholic guy who was caught into these. He commissioned and built these towers, and I think Cyrus Pinckney was the actual architect of those in that story. But they're based on like medieval superstitions about buildings incorporated into pre-industrial America, like during the age of during the Gilded Age, right? So, but I think the older story was richer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like every one of these I can and because I've been reading Batman comics so long, I'm picking up all of these things that have been hit before, and it's like Jeff Johns' Aquaman, right? The quality of the writing is solid, but the stuff he's pulling from, he's not giving any credit or attribution to the writers that came before, and he's not even using the names that they had dug into, right? Because here's one of the things back on Aquaman about Peter David's world that he built. Peter David, for the most part, the undersea cities that he built, that he imagined, they were, not all of them, but many of them shown up before in Aquaman comics. And so he was bringing these things out and using one-off references to make these large, enriched seascapes, right?
I think part of this problem is a general problem that you have with New 52. That I kind of have that problem too. And it even goes back to that Flashpoint thing where people were actively encouraged to like change the names of things in the past and stuff so that it did not line up perfectly with the old version of the world. So where like they can basically have like a fresh start on things, and because of that, you'll get things that are different, like Alan Wayne instead of Solomon Wayne, right?
Right.
And
And
that
see,
could be a mistake to do, but that's just New 52.
Well, and then maybe something like that too. But the thing I find the if this was an actual restart, right?
Yeah.
Then I could see it. It's just like, okay, we're not going to pay attention to this old continuity. It's just like, I have no problem. I don't like the Batman, that the movie with Cedric Diggory in it.
Yeah.
Right.
The recent the Batman movie.
Patterson. I don't care for it. I think it's a terrible movie. It's an insulting movie. I hate it. Right. The only thing I don't hate about it, I'm pretty sure this is the only thing I don't hate about it, is the casting for Catwoman. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the casting of Catwoman and the tying of Selena to the Falcone family, where she's the unwanted bastard daughter of this crime boss.
Yeah,
I don't mind that in that movie. It gives her some pathos. Zoe, what's her name?
Zoe Kravitz, right? Lenny Kravitz's daughter.
Perfectly. She has no Zoe Kravitz has zero chemistry with Pattinson, right? But she's not does not appear to be a bad actress in that film, right?
I thought they had a little chemistry at the end.
Well,
it worked for me anyway. I don't hate Pattinson.
Yeah,
as an actor. I realize he's been in a lot of, he's been in the Twilight, so naturally.
The only thing I didn't hate him in was Harry Potter. Okay.
Exactly.
He was in Harry Potter.
Yeah, Cedric Diggory. The guy who dies during the
Fort, right? The Tri-Wizard tournament.
Right.
Yeah, he was in one movie. Didn't hate it. Anyway.
He was really good in The Lighthouse.
What do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the best Batman parodies I've ever seen.
Oh,
which one?
The
Harry
Batman.
Potter?
Oh, the Batman. Yeah,
the Batman. Okay. Anyway, but that being said, because it was within this fixed universe, right? I don't think, and because you're retelling the story, I don't mind conflating Catwoman's story and Carmen Falcone's story in that context. When they did it in the DC universe, in the comics, it weakens things. I don't think it holds up as well. I don't think it's as interesting. I think it's too much randomness, too much too much predictability, right? It's like, God, does everything have to be connected? We have a world with 50 years of history and millions of characters, and like, I like finding like unexpected connections between things, right? But I don't like it when it's everything that has to be connected, right? Like, there's an issue of Chase where Chase meets Hal Jordan, meets the Green Lantern, because Hal is looking for his cousin, Hal, who's Airwave, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was fun because those are already pieces that have been put together. So you kind of take each of those pieces and you put them together, and it becomes kind of a fun story, right? But if we discovered that, okay, so Hal's cousin Hal has radio powers, right? And Static has electricity powers, and radio powers can cause electrical shock, and so these two, they're, even though like they're from totally different places and totally different continuities, we find out that Hal and Static are really cousins. They've always been cousins because they have their powers are kind of sort of similar. It's just like, oh, okay, guys, can we just tell more stories? Is that something we could do? So, even like you were talking about earlier, Hutch, like they this whole thing, they're laying these seeds that maybe Bruce's parents were involved in this conspiracy, the Court of Owls thing, and it's all been in there. But they already did that in Dark Knight, Dark City, and
right.
And yet, if Bruce's folks were involved somehow, in the world, wouldn't like that be something that Bruce would have figured out after going through the Wayne Manor and everything? And I don't understand how like the because I didn't read the rest of how this is supposed to be connected, and the thing about it is this event, which I don't know, I feel kind of was like a mid event, right?
Yeah.
But it became the cornerstone of how they were doing Batman. It affected every single Bat title, right?
Right.
And I'm monopolizing things, guys.
I mean, I agree with a lot of what you're saying with this too, right? There's certain aspects that I think can pass, but again, if this was like an earlier in his career Batman, like the idea that owls steal other birds' nests, right, so that they're living in your home, especially with Wayne Manor, they didn't even know how big the caves were underneath the manor until he started actually going down and building his Bat cave. Like they knew there were caves down there, but they didn't know how big they were. There's tons of places where owls could be hiding on his property and he wouldn't know. There's certain things that could work. It just doesn't really work how late into Batman's career this already is.
Right. And that's kind of my thing on it. So anyway, so Batman discovers that the Talon's bases, he goes through and he finds the missing floors and the whole business. And then he has this confrontation with Dick, where Dick's like, oh my gosh, it's got to be a conspiracy. All the fairy tales have to be true. Right? And then Batman says, I know for a fact that there is no Court of Owls. And Dick's like, you just got nearly killed by a guy who got up off the gurney and lived.
Right.
Right? Because
this is what I like about Dick Grayson. He's always the voice of reason against Batman's inevitable arrogance.
Right. and in a normal story, I'd say that's fine. And once again, if this was young Dick and 20-something Bruce, it'd be great. It'd be a great moment. Because then Batman could explain how, when I was a child, because he tells the story, when he was a child, he couldn't believe that a random killer had killed his parents. Oh, right. See, I can buy that. That makes a lot of sense. That's a great trauma skill there, Snyder. I like it. Okay. So then he goes and he tries to put all the pieces together. Conspiracy brain stuff, right? Ooh, yeah. Okay, I can dig this. This is feeling real. You've talked to somebody with a traumatic history. You talked to some professionals about trauma responses. I like it. Okay. And he thinks he figures it out, and like all of his parents' friends are part of the same social club on the edge of town, and the social club has got owls on the heraldry outside of the club, and everybody has his club meetings on the same day. So what did young Bruce do? He sneaks in when it's not club day, and he finds.
That actually happens. Not him saying that, but the kind of slap meme actually happens in this comic almost. It's a backhand instead.
It's a backhand, but yeah, it is true. I'll try to find it in a second. Oh, but he says he gets into the room, the secret room. He finds a secret door in a secret room, and he opens it up, and it's just an empty room that's full of dust, and there's obviously nobody who's been there forever. And oh man, so I guess there is no Court of Owls. Darn my 10-year-old self, I was wrong. But then the secret door swings shut, and he gets trapped in there. And it takes a while for anyone to miss him, and so he's there like 10 days before anyone finds him, and he's comatose from lack of water. And
I don't get how Alfred finds him. Yeah. He didn't say where he was going.
I think Alfred must have found his secret notebook.
Hold on, let's start getting some images up here, because people are going to get to see something. This
It isn't clear what happens to it. Just there's like a trapdoor. It almost looks like, and then
This was actually the first comic book I ever bought from a comic book store, and a bit of my intro into superheroes as far as my comic book.
Okay,
first of all, Court of Owls was the first thing you ever read
at the age of like 25, 27. Yeah.
Okay.
But I learned one important thing from it. Look at Batman is immortal.
Yeah.
What he goes through in this story.
guys, look.
He
So
is
here's
shot,
Batman.
stabbed, blown up.
He is at
been
the
drugged.
center of an explosion. He is at the
Yeah.
center of an explosion and gets out. And
He is
So here, guys-
bleeding out. He has been stabbed through the chest. He's drugged. He's is without food. He's without water. He freezes to death. He gets shocked awake, then marches out into a blizzard.
Yeah. So
And we
guys,
were
on the
talking
screen
about-
right now. This is
Oh.
Batman finding
Sure.
the first thing. Right. He finds this 13th floor, and here it is. Got all sorts of owl gear. It's got swords. It's got knives. It's got axes. It's got glaives. It's got a picture of these guys in creepy owl costumes. Right. And then
Mhm.
Batman has the nerve to tell Dick there is no court of owls.
He's about to
And
find out
he's-
the opposite.
This is after he's met the and he finds like 12 or 13 of these little bases that all are similar, and they've got the gear and the portraits of the people in the creepy fetish gear and everything. And
Yeah.
here's one. This is a great one. Here it is. Remove this one. Here is a picture of a Talon and a bunch of the weird owl babies, right?
Mhm.
Like,
From like half a decade ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this, yeah. So it's just so silly. And that's before, well, then Batman hits the thing and blows up. But here is oh my gosh. This is one of the things that I got so irritated with reading here. I'm just going to read this, guys. Most of the people assume the danger of a tripwire lies in the blast.
It does.
That's not what a tripwire is, guys.
Yeah.
Right? That's a tripwire is not necessarily a trigger for an explosive. It's
Right.
It can be if you have
An
a
alarm.
wire
Well,
that people trip on,
Yeah.
or for letting loose a snare or a net trap,
Or a
Those are
20-ton weight.
tripwires or a big weight. Yeah.
he's
Absolutely.
getting to the point quickly. I'm okay with that.
Not so.
Yeah.
The real threat from a tripwire comes later in the aftermath. Once again, if the tripwire is just there on a garden path to make you fall onto like a spike trap or something, then there is nothing after the trip.
Yeah.
It's just,
I get
he's
that by
using a
saying
term.
tripwire and then explosion, he's gotten to the
He-
point
it's a-
quickly. We know what
he's
he's got.
using
They're,
a term.
they're like
Sounds cool.
implying a
ignorant.
claymore.
This is a guy who has never done anything real.
Scott
He's read the-
Snyder or Batman?
Scott Snyder.
Okay.
Right? He's read books. He's
Yeah.
seen movies. He's never gone out there and pranked his buddies in the dark in the forest.
Mhm.
I think this is true. This is
He's
an
never
opinion
bloodied
of
his
Scott
lip.
Snyder
He's never
that I
bloodied
have
his,
of everything he's ever written.
Yeah.
he's never bloodied his lip, trying to protect a girl, and none of it.
Batman's
never
supposed.
insulted the wrong
Everybody
guy.
says they love Batman because he's human, and it's like he survives this. He survives the fall from the building by apparently just landing on a gargoyle that nobody knew about. But it's like, how do you can't just land on a gargoyle from a great height. It would kill it would just be like hitting the ground.
That whole
It's-
issue seemed rushed. I feel like they were
Yeah.
having to jump to conclusions, and we didn't get to see what was supposed to happen in between.
He doesn't even offer an explanation of how he lived to
This
the
Batman
guy who
is
saw him
not
thrown out.
human. Right. And
Well,
I
I
mean
guess
that at
that-
all. Early New
He's-
52 Batman was already leg pressing like half a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and this is the kind of thing where this is human in the same way that like Die Hard is real, right? It has
Sure.
it's hyper real, and I'll give it that. Like
Yeah.
it's not him surviving the explosion, because one of the things we have in the sequence we're just looking at is, if you look at it, he's trying to jump ahead of the explosion, right? By putting
Yeah.
stuff between him and the explosion and stuff. And so like I can kind of sort of buy that, and whatever, it's fine. It's fine.
It
It's
reminds me of that old stand-up joke from the 80s where they were making fun of Rambo. They're watching Rambo and he's like in the new movie, they're firing at him and he's running around the explosions. That's how he survives. He runs around the explosions, and the comedian doing it is like, why did nobody tell me to do that when I was in the military? That would have come handy in Vietnam. Yeah, it's like, oh, you just run around the explosions. Okay.
It was during
Batman surviving an explosion like this is it bothers me very much, and it shows him like the buildings coming down. Like maybe what they're trying to say is the tripwire, they set it up to make you go, uh-oh, what did I just do? Give you time to realize what you've done as the whole flaming thing comes down on you, and so he's got seconds to get out of there before the real
it's so
explosion
hard
hits him, I guess. But
with
it's not
the way the
explained
art
that
and
way.
the words are in this book that like there's a few things I had to double back and reread, and I think it is the lot of the weight of the storytelling of this book comes down to you interpreting it properly, like you adding in all the stuff that's missing from it.
So in that case, it's basically Star Wars. Sorry, Star Wars.
And so this sequence here, this is one of the great sequences, right? When young Bruce is trying to solve the conspiracy brain stuff, right? And he's going through and he's investigating all this stuff, and there is all the signs, and because he's convinced that the fairy tale or the nursery rhyme is true, and he's doing all the research. I loved this, man. I was eating this up, right? And he and Dick are talking about it, and he's finding all these things, and there's the Addams Family style house. That's the secret that he thinks might be the secret base for the owls, and it's just the empty room, right? Oh my goodness. How about that? This empty room, it's really something else. And he gets stuck there, and he gets out, and he decides that there isn't a court of owls. And then
so I made an assumption there that might be true or it might not, right? But a lot of this you have to make assumptions. I assumed that the reason he eventually got out is because the Court of Owls were the ones that came and got him out. And all of that was set up to throw him off the trail that there isn't actually a Court of Owls.
That could be something on it. But he says that, he gets back to Gotham and he's looked around for years and never found anybody. So he's sure that it isn't real, because he surely would have found it by this point, and the whole business. But it's like, but it's so silly, because it's just like once again, if this had been in the beginning of the career, I got back to Gotham and I was sure that it's not there or whatever. After all that, it would have made a ton of sense. But that's not the way they played it at all.
Also, I feel like an adult Bruce, right, would question his findings as a child. Like, even if he was better than most adults as a child, he's still better now than he was as a child, that he would also question, like, how well did he do the detective work back then?
Yeah. Well, and then the crazy thing about it is like, and this whole conversation with Dick about how it definitely didn't happen because of what I found out when I was 10, like, this is after he's discovered all the bases that are hidden in the buildings, and after he's been, found all the gear, right? And so it's just like, and after he's escaped the giant explosion, like, somebody left the explosion, somebody put all the giant owl medallions everywhere. Like, it doesn't.
May I
it doesn't make any
something
sense that he
may be
wouldn't guess.
missing actually about this, and that is, spoiler alert, at the end, Bruce is forced to deal with the fact that the Gotham he thinks he's existed, where he basically owns it, he takes responsibility for it, etc., doesn't exist, right? He gets an ego check, basically.
Oh yeah, that was the thing I hated the most about this is like this thing just spiraled into pretension.
I'm not sure what you mean by that. I actually liked that for once Batman kind of got put in his place. But if I may suggest that Batman could have a bit of an obsession here with denying that exists, because if it does, then it means he's wrong. Just saying.
Oh no, that's definitely there. I don't even think that's up to question.
Okay.
But I think that's part of the pretentiousness of the story, right? Like the whole point of the story is that Batman doesn't actually know Gotham. That's even laid out from the very beginning with the whole Gotham is kind of like column that happens in a newspaper every week.
Which is also super laborious to read through.
Yeah. Like we're talking about, we liked the same parts, Reese, like, at the very beginning. I think Hutch, we were also talking about that a little bit, that we liked the beginning parts. We liked the detective stuff. I even liked like the fact that it was done in like this noir narration style, but it really just becomes more and more pretentious the more the story goes on.
Yeah. And
So-
I have to say my biggest complaint about the early parts is that I have a hard time criticizing artists because I cannot draw anything. I can't draw a straight line without a ruler. And I cannot draw for the life of me. So I respect good art, and I've nothing. I usually have a terrible time, criticizing artists, but this person is a good artist, but they are not the best storyteller. They're not the best sequential art
Visual
storyteller. What's that?
Visual storyteller.
Yeah, and
Right.
communicating what is happening. There's a lot of this that I just, I can't.
And that's why
make sense.
I like to separate.
Yeah.
I find it useful to think about this in different terms, right? Because whether somebody is a good artist or not, it can mean a lot of things, right?
Mhm.
But the I can't remember the artist's name right now. Forgive me, but his drafting skills are excellent, right? He's a very good draftsman.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean he's a good comicer, right?
Right.
And comicer, of course, is a word that I coined a few years ago to talk about somebody who is practicing the comic arts specifically. So a comicer can be a writer or an artist, but there's somebody who is participating in the production of comics, and the artist is an excellent draftsman. His line work is great. His composition in panel is great. Even just look at the way he did this owl fountain in the middle of this labyrinth. We'll talk about the labyrinth in a second. But it's great, and like his close-ups, it's engaging, it's active. Not always is he telling the stories with the pages. He may be subject to what Snyder is writing in his scripts, right? It may be a full script versus, more of a looser method. So maybe is a better comicer, and he's just working with what Snyder's given him, or maybe he's not. There are ways where he's not getting the thing together, or the other possibility is that they may be working from something more like a Marvel method, where he's given ideas to go with, and then Snyder is mucking it around by adding dialogue that doesn't fit because he knows the story.
I think this is just one of those things we've often talked about where it just comes down to lack of a good editor.
It could be. So,
Yeah,
so
this
anyway,
is Greg Capullo.
Capullo, thank you.
Yeah,
But his design.
but he's not the only artist on here, right?
Yeah.
There was also Jonathan Glapion, and he's not credited at what he did in this run though. So we don't know if like Greg did all of the pencils for this or not. If he definitely did all the inks, I know that part. But the fact that there is another person, he's not credited whether he colored. Like the colorist could have also done some of the pencils for all we know. It's not actually clear who did all of the art on this book.
Oh wow. So anyway, on to the story part of this part here. So Batman is captured. He goes down to the sewers because the poem that he discounts until he's captured says that they stare out from granite and lime, and there's no lime that's being used in Gotham City anywhere except in the sewers, and except that lime is an essential ingredient in all concrete. So anyway, once again,
well, they're talking about direct limestone.
Never built anything before.
That doesn't sound like something that should be in the sewers where there's lots of water.
Yeah. Anyhow, So they put Batman in this labyrinth, and he has to try to survive. And there's a Talon going around hunting him down, and the whole business. And it's a psychological torture chamber, and Batman is on his last limb. He's about to die. I'm not going to go over too much of it because it's all psychobabble and nonsense, and I don't find.
Well, this is my least favorite part of the whole story. Was in the labyrinth. My least favorite part of this entire story was in the labyrinth.
It was such a waste of space. It was an entire 22 pages of nonsense. Anyway,
I don't know.
It doesn't resolve anything. It doesn't explain anything. That's why I hated it. What were you saying, Cartoonicus?
I was saying you can't get bored from it. Like, at the very least, it ends up in this kind of almost so bad it's good era.
No, I was bored from it. That was the problem, right?
Really?
Yeah.
The number of ways Batman should be dead and somehow still Rasputining his way through everything.
That doesn't do anything for
I'm
me.
almost fascinated. I was laughing practically.
One of the things I was going to say in the group chat before this, because I did say it felt like it wasted my time, but that was mostly at the ending, is that about halfway through, I was just getting bored of this story, and it never really captured my attention again. I'd never got unbored.
So here's a way the Labyrinth might not have been terrible. Because there is a way the Labyrinth might not have been terrible, right? Mm-hmm. Is Snyder goes through talking about how the Court of Owls is using the Labyrinth to tell Bruce a story, right? And they've got a miniature of Gotham City in there. They've got pictures of people who were killed by the Court of Owls. They got pictures of people who were in the Court of Owls, right? But the one thing that Snyder refuses to do with this space is tell you the story the court is trying to tell Bruce, right? This could have been a device, and I wish Twitless was here for this part of the conversation. Yeah. But it could have been a device by which Snyder explains the history, or at least the proposed history of the Court of Owls, and gave us a little bit of sauce, right? Just a little bit of seasoning for this story, right?
Oh yeah.
We talked about this being like Lost, this story being kind of like Lost, where it kind of doesn't do a whole lot, right? Mm-hmm. When Lost introduced the Hatches and started going into the history of the Dharma Initiative, right? It ended up not having anything to do with the overall story because it was all a red herring to distract from the fact that it's all about purgatory, and everybody was right by the beginning of by the end of the first season what the story was really about, what the island really was. And and Lindelof and all those guys just spent the next 5 years lying to everybody. Okay. So, but with that, they spent some time crafting this red herring story about the Hatches and about the Dharma Initiative that was really engaging and enjoyable. And even though that's not what the point of the island is, that was still a really fun story. And I still enjoy going back and revisiting Lost every once and again to see that story, right? Because that one was better than the story they were actually telling.
I was never able to rewatch Lost. And I wanted to. I love the show so much, and it just went off the rails so much.
I got through like the third season before I just totally
fourth season. If you made it through the third season, I think the fourth season pays off.
I keep waiting for the answers to this or that or the other, and there's no answers anywhere. It's like, why did they take the children? Well, they took the children because the actors would grow too fast.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why they took the children. But why did reading the Court of Owls? Why did they take all the children?
Yeah.
Never explained.
Anyway,
because you never get answers even in the other stuff after this.
Right. So we're not here to talk about Lost, but that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about.
Right, and that's part of the thing is instead of it just being a mystery box, if Snyder would have taken the time to expand on this, that would have meant so much. Now, that being said, I want to go back to my statement earlier, right? If this had been a year 2, year 3 story, and we didn't get the answers to this, that's fine. We're going to get to it, right?
Yeah.
Right? it's the promise they laid out there. I don't mind the mystery box idea as long as there's actually something in the friggin' box, right?
I just got to the last page, by the way.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even
Finally.
realize. I'm like waiting. Wait, this is the last page.
Yeah,
and then there's just 30 alternate covers.
Man,
Right,
you've just said so much about this story, Hutch.
Yeah.
But that being said, right? Like, I mean, like if this was a year 3 story, and this is a theme that they're going to go back and revisit in future Batman stories, okay, sure, that could be fine. But the fact that we're dealing with this year 5, year 10, whatever it is story, when Batman's well established and he's got all this history behind him, you know, hundreds and hundreds of solved cases, and he's still making these chump decisions, and I cannot stand. I don't mind Batman making mistakes. One of my favorite Batman stories is The Lonely Place of Dying. And every decision Batman makes in that book until the very last part of the story is the wrong decision. Right? But I love that story so much. But you know what Batman isn't in that story? He's not a chump.
Well, I was going to say,
Batman,
you know what's an empty box? It's not just the mystery box that's empty. It's Batman's head is empty here. One of the things I hated about this labyrinth sequence, right, is the inconsistent narration here with the narrative. Because the type of narration we had at the start of the story is kind of like this almost, I wouldn't say omniscient, but this outsider third-party version of what Batman is saying going on, right? It's not exactly what's going on in Batman's head. It's a discussion between this like higher plane Batman talking to the audience in the way that like noir stories are told, with this higher plane version of the main character talking to the reader. But then we get to the labyrinth and he's like dehydrating and he's going insane. And the narration stops looking like this higher plane noir narration. And it's like what's actually going in Batman's head at the time, which, as you said, this would have been perfect opportunity if they kept with that style of narration for Batman to be explaining the story that he's being shown by the court, instead of like, words hard say, I am thirsty, need no rope, need climb, you know, like, it's not the same narration we had before this moment.
And it would be, and like, I would even like all that stuff would be stuff like I wouldn't even mind, right? Once again, if we're dealing with a young Batman who's learning something, right? But that's not the position that we're in here. It just bugs me. And the device, and once again, to Scott Snyder's skill, the narration in this sequence, as much as I find it annoying, it does explain the mind frame of a person who's afraid they're losing their mind. Very effective.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make the storytelling engaging.
The problem I had with this, the problem I had with the whole labyrinth is that it jumps 8 days later, and he's been trapped in there running around, and I don't buy it. Because it's either. Batman. It's like he would be marking the walls. He would know that he would be figuring out that labyrinth way before. He wouldn't be like coming in, oh no, I'm back in this room again.
And it's like, Batman. Okay, so
and he says, I don't have a rope. I can't get out of here. And it's like, he can Jackie Chan that corner and climb the wall. There's it's Batman.
And it's like they don't know. It's like
the owls are clearly on the walls later. So like they're climbable to get up there.
Yeah. Well, and then it's like they don't remember that Batman has a knife in his boot.
Right.
So it's like, oh, they took his utility belt. Now he can't do anything. And it's just like,
he's got freaking spikes on his arms that he could use for digging into the wall and scaling up. Yeah.
Right.
Have you ever thought that Scott Snyder's just a tourist? I don't know.
I think so. But it's like the narration in this entire thing's inconsistent, actually, even with the noir. And I don't know who did the lettering, right? Because the lettering also kind of decided the type of boxes and stuff. But there's some times where things look like they should be this noir style, kind of like omnipresent narration. And sometimes it is Batman's thoughts. And sometimes it's got a different box. Sometimes it's the exact same box as the narration. And you kind of have to like interpret whether this is Batman's actual thoughts or if this is the narration, because they use the same type of box for when he and Dick are talking to each other off screen. So it's really hard to tell, is this narration for the audience? Is this it's a speech box or is this a thought bubble box? Because they use the same one for everything.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, I was going to say, at this time, that's what they did. They did, in fact, use it for everything.
Now, one of the things about this whole sequence is Batman does end up escaping, and he does end up defeating the Talon that's been stalking him just by brute force and power of his Batmanness. Mm-hmm. And it's a very yippee-ki-yay moment at the end of the story, and they almost have a reasonable explanation for how Batman gets out. And almost. And
I don't know who the girl with the septum ring is. Her name's
I don't know if this was her first appearance or not.
But Batman says, "I've told you to leave me alone."
Right.
And yet we
she
didn't see her.
The I think she may have been one of the We Are Robin girls, but I can't remember exactly how that shakes out. But
that's Harper Row, Bluebird.
Bluebird, that's right, Bluebird. Yeah. I was thinking it was Mockingbird, but it's Bluebird, who's the LGBT Robin before they decided that no one liked her, and they needed somebody that people actually cared about, to swing that way. So,
and I think this was her first appearance, like literally right here. And they were kind of like embedding her into the world because Snyder and Capullo were the creators of Bluebird.
Well, and the thing about it is like, regardless of how that shakes out, like I found that exchange, it's weird, but it also seems interesting. And every time I've seen her interact with the other characters, she seems like a decent character. But because she exists as a reflection of merely of her sexuality, it limits, I think, her ability to be interesting at all.
Yeah. But I think introducing a character that way and then like later on using flashbacks to retroactively give you the history between the characters is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So
it says that she appears as an unnamed woman in #1. So in part 1, I did not see that. I don't know where she is in that story.
Yeah, maybe we'd have to look into that. I don't know.
Yeah.
So one of the things I want to go ahead and talk about here is we've got this appearance after Batman escapes.
Put it up on the screen.
The old woman shows up and into the middle of the deal, and they decide they're going to throw away the Talon because he didn't do a good job, and that's the whole thing is we're just going to go ahead and get rid of him, and he'll never be fine again, they say. And they introduce this guy, so they end up have this whole scene where Batman escapes. I gotta hang on a second. I did the wrong thing here because we're almost to the scene I wanted to get to introduce the. Here it is. Here, this is a hilarious sequence. So Batman is having some sort of vision, being nearly asleep or nearly dead. And then all of a sudden he wakes up because somebody has used a battery charger to jumpstart his heart. This is not at all how that works.
Yeah, no.
But okay.
So it might be more convenient if he was wearing
is it more
like, the
realistic
outfit.
What Batman has survived so far over the last 40 pages?
It is slightly more realistic than what he survived so far.
I'm just saying, it'd be easier to find his nipples to jumpstart him if he was wearing the Clooney outfit.
Really? We going there?
Okay, so who are you? I'm me. You. Okay, thank you. No names. No need for names. Oh, she refers to herself as Harper here. Epic bat fail.
Yeah.
So, could be, I don't know, that's I think that could be a perfectly fine introduction as far as things go there. End of the story. Batman gets back to the Batcave. Somehow he's fine. Dick shows up, and they have a body on ice The Court of Owls it's revealed they have loads and loads and loads of talons that are everywhere, and that are in the thing, and they wake them all up. Batman explains that there's some sort of chemical that's put into their bodies to allow them to be put on cold storage, and that they're basically immortal because the whatever element or compound that's in their cells fixes itself, and it's very science fiction-y and great.
Mhm.
And it
also feels like they're stepping on Al Ghul's turf quite a bit here.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, although
but they're not Lazarus pits. It's not magic. It's science.
Yeah,
believe me. It's
the Lazarus pit is inside of them instead of outside of them. That's the difference.
Basically.
Yeah,
basically.
I mean, he seems to be very blasé about the fact that they are immortal.
Yes.
Yeah. I suppose he's met immortals, but still, it's like, oh, you just use this metal.
This is a world where he knows
immortal.
Superman personally. It's like, well, as long as he gets sunlight, Clark's basically immortal. So I guess it's not beyond reason.
And it's also great. Dick in this whole sequence, he looks about 12, so that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Sorry, Greg. Let me to pick on you there. So they end up finding out that they have this chemical that they're infused with that's implanted in a fake tooth, and the whole business. And this guy, it turns out, is actually Dick's great-grandfather.
This is another thing I hate, right? Because he knocked out Dick's tooth. There's no way Bruce would have never known that was in his tooth before. He basically raised Dick after he, lost his family from the circus. He has dental records on every single person that he's next to. He'd be able to know if there was like a hollow fake piece to Dick's tooth years ago.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, and here, okay, another thing on the, I have to take something back for a second. I said there wasn't anything I didn't hate in this story. If it was that, the thing that I do not like, I cannot stand, one of the things they mention here is that the Court of Owls gets its kids from Haley's Circus. Every 2 generations, they come around and they give up their kids, the best of their acrobats, to the Court of Owls as tribute.
Yeah. That makes them evil.
That makes them evil. That makes Dick's parents evil. That makes everybody involved they're evil. And it's not even like, okay, it would be one thing if the Court of Owls was kidnapping kids and that there was a whole room, and that's why we have that's why there's the nursery rhyme, is because there's these kids that every once again go missing, and the adults are like, kids always go missing. Kids run away from the circus. They run to the circus. Accidents happen. Oh, those carny folk, they're going to hide up if they're reckless. They carry their kids, and if one of them dies, they're not going to explain it or anything. They're going to try to blame somebody else for it. Those darn gypsies, right?
Yeah.
That'd have been fine if they were victims. But what is explicitly said here is that the Haley Circus for generations, centuries, they've been in on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I think the implications are worse than that, actually, right? Because they said it's like these old money rich families of Gotham that are the ones running it. So that also means it's none of the rich families that are involved in mobs or anything that we know of. None of them are even aware of the Owls outside of the thing. So it's not those people. These are even worse than, say, like freaking Black Mask's organization and stuff like that. It's like worse than this because these people let all of this stuff happen as long as it fulfills their will and desire, which means even if they weren't named before, you are retroactively tainting potentially decent rich families from Gotham's history from before this continuity.
There are no decent rich families in Gotham's history, right?
Yeah. Can I point out?
Not anymore.
What really bothered me about this scene at first was this whole thing about he's your great grandfather. I'm like, yeah, but Dick Grayson was a member of a traveling circus. He's not from Gotham. And it's weird that they say, but it's because Haley's Circus does this. I'm like, why Haley's Circus? They are not from Gotham. They travel all around the country, but
don't forget the New 52. They can rewrite it.
Yeah,
they can rewrite.
I can buy that because they travel around, right?
Yeah,
but the thing about a circus, and this is the thing once again, it speaks to like maybe Scott Snyder's never been outside of his bedroom, right?
Yeah.
People come and go from the circus, even families that make that a career. They'll be part of one circus for a while and they're part of another circus, and circuses don't last forever. And then sometimes the organization folds in on itself and new people will join in there. You couldn't keep this thing going.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially like if somebody's really good, some circus acts just become like permanent staples of local theaters because it pays better if you're good at what you do.
Yeah.
And so exactly. Or they end up trading up to other things or leaving the circus life behind and starting, tumbling and gymnastics aspects or things where there's more money.
You're making Old Man Haley a corrupt, horrible person, and he's always been shown to be like a kind person who really hated the fact that he resisted paying off, and because of that, they killed 2 people. And they clearly just wanted to send a warning, but they ended up killing both this kid's parents. And he, he's always been portrayed as a rather sympathetic person, and now you have the Haley Circus has always been, and knocking him in the face, like that's going to knock out the exact tooth that I want to show you. It's just
yeah.
I think people just laugh at seeing
somebody wanting to put that old meme in here.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I think people just like to see Dick abused. I think that's just how it goes.
It wasn't until I was rereading this just today that I realized that he had knocked the tooth out. Before
I didn't notice until you were talking about it.
Batman's being a jerk here.
Yeah.
Well, and so this comes back to the thing. Like, I don't mind Dick's grandfather being with the Court of Owls, great grandfather being with the Court of Owls. Okay, sure. Mm-hmm. I don't mind that they were out scouting and wanting to recruit Dick because he was an amazing athlete, right? Like that okay, that I can buy easily, right? And if this story was about saving young Dick from this encroachment of this secret society, right? Like an additional thing, like we have the story where Dick is just, he's Batman's taking him in. He's wanting vengeance against the people that offed his parents. Dick, Batman shares his mission with him. They bring the mob to justice over it. We have this whole thing where we get to, if in this story we were getting to know the Pops Haley, we get the whole circus environment, and then we find out that maybe Grandpa Haley was into some shady stuff, and Dick's great grandpa William Cobb was also part of it, and was willingly submitted himself to the Court of Owls or whatever, so they wouldn't kidnap any more Haley Circus kids. Who knows, right? They could have done all this and yet they came back. They were coming back for Dick, right? Whatever the thing was going to be, that back for Dick would be a fun story.
Yep.
Right. But this one that just makes everybody who's not Bruce Wayne evil. Bruce's parents might be evil. Mm-hmm. All of Bruce's friends growing up were evil. All the people at the Bridge Club are evil. All the people Bruce is trying to get donations to rebuild Gotham's old buildings are evil. Bruce's great grandfather is evil.
Yeah.
And it's all of Dick's family is evil. Well, thank God they got killed, right?
Yeah. And the problem I have with this whole ancient society of rich people underneath Gotham is, and of course the obvious answer is, and to anything that I say, is New 52. If I have an objection, it doesn't apply. 52, New 52. So anything that I say now, you're just going to say that.
Only if it has to do with continuity.
Yeah, but that's the problem is, remember that earthquake that brought all the buildings down? Remember that that the event in the 90s that brought all of the what was that artist's name? The guy who designed the Gotham City for the movies.
Yeah.
And they had a guy who was bringing down all the modern buildings to make the old Anton First buildings show up. He redesigned the Gotham skyline, including destroying Bruce Wayne's buildings. And I don't know how many. I mean, this No Man's Land alone should have flattened everything relevant to this story. So either No Man's Land never happened, but I believe it. Well, I don't know with the New 52.
I believe No Man's Land did happen in the New 52 continuity. That's the thing about it is, it's like they did exactly what people were complaining about the Crisis doing. Is they wanted to have their cake and eat it too. They wanted a reboot, but they kept all of Green Lantern's history intact.
Right.
They kept all of Batman's history intact. They kind of started Superman over, sort of, kind of, mostly.
Yeah, he was a
which
gym
happened
rat.
before. It's just like, do you want a reboot or do you want a reboot? Right?
Yeah, reboot Batman. You have to do it. You have to reboot Batman and Green Lantern if you're going to do it.
This is where I never care about continuity, though. It's like there's so much going back that I'll never know about. When I go into a Batman story arc, I am just like, I might as well be watching a movie, and we're starting from scratch again.
Well, and I think that's the status quo right now. Right? I think that's that's because that's the only thing we're going through Superman, we're going through Wonder Woman, like they're kind of all fast and loose with the continuity. And Hutch, like you said, like I don't know what the history is supposed to be, right? Well,
I don't even care about No Man's Land. I didn't think it was that great a story. And then having Lex Luthor come in and rebuild every building at his own expense, and then being told, get out of here, as an excuse for why suddenly Gotham City is back 1 month later. It's like, I'm sorry, not a month later. How long did it take us to rebuild one tower in New York, Well,
there were lots. There were lots.
You can't rebuild all of Gotham in a month. And then everything should be new. There shouldn't be any decrepit old Gotham that everybody's living in, if you're going to rebuild it all. And that, it was a terrible solution, but they just wanted to do, Escape from New York for a year in Batman books. That's all they wanted to do. So
and I'll give you that. But yeah, so that's the and I understand your point, Cartoonicus, about the continuity with it. But the fact is that they still want to play in the sandbox. Yeah. Right? But they don't want to honor any of the history in the sandbox, right? And so with this story is one of these things where it has its own internal continuity, and they're spreading it across every other Bat book, and they're looking at, and of course, once again, they're trying to do their reboot thing, but with all this history and with all this other stuff that went on before. Yeah. And it just Joker still killed Sarah Essen. Joker still shot Barbara Gordon after she'd had a substantial career, and then she was Oracle for a very substantial career, and now all of a sudden she's a much younger Batgirl. Because she had they didn't just reboot it, they actually had her back get healed somehow. I never understood how. But then she's a little girl. Yeah.
You might suggest that the New 52 as a whole is DC's version of One More Day. In that it is simplifying the universe to what newcomers anyway are used to seeing in cartoons and movies, and every time they create that new thing and you are forced to start again from scratch, and you don't have 30 years worth of comic storytelling to go on.
I suppose there could be some sense in that. I do know of people whose first exposure to Batman was this version of Batman, and I don't understand,
at all, or just
those people even kept reading Batman after this.
Yeah.
I mean, this was the last story arc I picked up, I'll admit.
It was the first and the last.
Yeah, I could
Um,
understand people still reading it
Actually,
for
that's
like
not true. I did pick up
a year.
what was it called? Batman Inc. for a year. That was
Mm.
kind of weird though.
I
Like,
think it's
I
odd
could-
that they did the
yeah.
New 52 to try to bring in new readers and to, like you say, trim down all this history, but they didn't want to totally start over. I think they kind of need to, but they didn't. And then they did the, what is it called? After the New 52, they did the
Rebirth.
Rebirth was the next,
rebirth thing. Yeah.
Rebirth
And
at least started out sounding like a good idea to me because it seemed like they were just instead
they
of trying
brought
to
back-
make the entire universe one single thing, they were going to each franchise, each title, and saying, "Who are the fans of this? Let's
Right.
appease them." But
Yeah.
then I never
like
got
with
into
Blue
it,
Beetle.
and
Yeah.
then I learned later that it sounded like the universe completely fell apart.
Yeah.
Well,
But it's
I mean,
what I started to say before I got
sorry.
distracted. My point is that and now we have Batman with about 40 people in the Batcave and 4 Robins in a tight history that doesn't make sense, and all the stuff that was thrown out during the New 52 is back, but it's been condensed to like a 10-year timeline or something like that. There's Batman has a kid, a hyper accelerated kid. Superman has a kid who has been suddenly accelerated forward to like 18 or 19, and Wonder Woman has a kid, and it's like, and there's Superman is married to Lois, and Batman. It's like they haven't done anything to trim down and go back to the start on any of this stuff. It's like you get in here. There's a lot of continuity now.
Well, and that's
Right,
and that's
it's not
actually
really a rebirth.
There's 4 Wonder Girls.
It's not an origin story in that. No, certainly.
Yeah.
not.
well. I mean, and there's definitely something to be said for that Hutch, especially when you look at the fact that like they added extra Blue Beetles, they added a whole bunch of other stuff, but even this story is not in any way a trimming, because they're inventing and extracting and imposing 400 years of history
right
onto here, that is necessary to buy in order to justify the movement of the Court of Owls into every Bat book.
Yeah. And
And
the Court of Owls has never done anything. They've never done anything to be noticed in all that time, nor have they ever taken action like, when Crisis on Infinite Earths happens, or, anything comes by and starts destroying things in Gotham that they would care about. They've never.
or even, and to my knowledge, maybe somebody else does
Yeah.
better than this on more recent comics. So
We've
tell
never
me
seen
in the
a
chat
Talon.
if you see this. But
Yeah.
even after, like, now they've reintroduced the Golden Age into the modern universe. Like the
Mhm.
Golden Age happened for sure. But did Alan Scott ever run into the Court of Owls?
Right. Just what I was
Right?
about to say. Yeah.
Or did they have a factor into the when whichever Wayne
Reaper?
it was running the Underground Railroad under Gotham, under the Wayne Manor, right?
Yeah.
Or was that guy just eating, or was it just actually an abattoir for destroying slaves coming through, since he was a member of the court?
Right.
Like I can't stand that plot device. If inside the box of the Court of Owls, I was talking about how I wouldn't have minded this if this was an early story with a couple of caveats, right? And that would be that the court needs to be much smaller,
Yeah.
right?
Like about 10 people.
10 people, 10 families,
Yeah.
right? And one
Yeah.
member of the families is all that's permitted in the court, right? And so it looks more like you guys all saw the first Blade movie, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
No.
Excellent movie. The Vampire Court, that's part of it, where you've got the heads of the houses show up to run things for the World Association of Vampires.
Mhm.
Great plot device. Something like that, where it's like a mob family, a collection of mob families or whatever. And so you'd have some of that crossover between these different worlds, and they're like the they're the heads of industry. It's not everybody. They don't have to have, a million different, trained assassins that are ready to go at all times, where they had like 26 owls talons that were on ice in the thing.
The thing to do would be to have and of course, I know, this story goes on and on and on, so maybe they've done this, but have something where somebody tells the story of, how they have existed, and show, like maybe the Reaper, the guy from 20 years before Batman, who turned out to be the father of the woman that he was dating. You remember from Batman Year 2. Maybe that guy was the Talon. Maybe that they explained that was their Talon. They didn't want him to be noticed. So they gave him a new costume and sent him out. Something like that. That you like you said, Alan Scott. You could have something in the 40s in Gotham. You show how these guys have done things. If they've sent out these talents to do stuff and they've never been caught and they've never been seen. Nobody's ever said there's a bat. There's an owl guy who haunts Gotham. Nobody's ever said that. They have this rhyme about the Court of Owls, but that's it.
Actually, what would have been better? I'll tell you what would have been better, right? Better than this entire story. Yes, but involving some of the stuff of it.
Yeah.
If Batman was actually right the whole time, if it was just a nursery rhyme that people put out, and then this dude who's like insane and thinks that he's like Thomas Wayne's actual firstborn son or whatever, right? Like he's the legitimate heir to the Wayne family or whatever. Just did all of this stuff to gaslight Bruce into thinking that this was real. Even though he's like, there is no Court of Owls, but he convinced everybody else that it's real. He convinced Batman it was real. And then at the very end, he's like, you were right, Bruce. You were right the whole time. Like that would have been a much better storyline to me. And like he did all this work to like trick the carbon dating, all this work to make it seem like this stuff had been in Gotham the whole time, but it never was until like 10 weeks ago when he started setting this stuff up.
Well, it would be more.
And then Batman has to wonder if that's a cover story. He's forever paranoid.
Yeah. Like,
okay,
so that would be a much better story.
If this was a Batman Year 5 or even Batman Year 10 story, and that's the thing, that's the hook at the end of the story, is that it's fake, and then that would be a great thing to leave in the universe, right?
Yeah. That would have been just a much better
this guy's
story.
a metahuman, and he is actually immortal, right? And so that's part of what's allowed him to believe all of this stuff, is because he's 6 months older than Bruce or whatever. And so he can't be Bruce's older brother because he's too close in age. But he's got to ignore that because he's the special one, right? And so he builds this whole thing up. That would be, but then the question is did he or did right? Because like it's so elaborate.
Yeah. You could even have the Court of Owls and just have them be a bunch of guys who decided to do this nursery rhyme for real that's always existed. There is no ancient society. They've decided to do one now,
Or this guy, or that would be a great follow-up story, is like the guy like comes out as like he planned all of it, right? And he's orchestrated all of it in the whole business. And he tells him to Bruce just before he dies for real, for whatever reason, you make up something. He gets a silver stake through his heart. I don't know. It doesn't matter. And then later on, 2 years later, then you have another story where there's a secret society and they're all dressed like owls. And then it's like, wait a second. I thought this was fake.
Yeah. See, that's the problem that I always had with that Wonder Woman story, is that there was never anything to say that this King of America was not true. That there really has been a King of America who's really been running things, and every president has just been, bowing to this guy and running this fake story that we've been a good, free country for 250 years. Right. There was never a point where that was disproven, So this is kind of the same thing. There's this huge history.
Better, partly because it's only in one city rather than rearranging our entire existence of the country. And two, because it kind of fairly accurately kind of mimics the deep state, and we know that stuff like that does happen and has been happening for a long time, and you have these rich people who go back and are practically untouchable. So there's a lot more believability I can actually take out of that.
Well, and the other thing is they're a lot they're a lot less untouchable than they want you to think they are. But
Yeah.
This actually comes back to something that I kind of want to reflect on, right?
Wait, are you saying in reality or in the comic?
In reality.
Okay.
In reality, they're a lot less untouchable than they or the media want you to think they are.
Right.
And the reason I believe, and see, and here's part of the thing is this gets to the I'm not going to try to psychoanalyze Scott, other than saying that I think that he just needs to go out and live life a little more. And you know, I don't know his life. Maybe he has done things. They're just not these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe he's gone out there hiking and fishing and all the good things. He's just never been a builder. That's not something he's learned. So,
right.
He's
Well, to be fair, I mean, it
never had cause to do all that.
Surprise me that a comic writer would be an introvert, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's just like it's like one of these things where like Chuck Dixon laughs a lot about gun mistakes that people make in fiction because they don't go out and shoot, right?
Yeah.
And that's fair. you know, and I as a former builder, I notice building mistakes. You know, so
This is always the kind of conversation that it gets me paranoid because I'm like, oh great, what kind of egregious stuff is going to end up in my own stories?
But anyway, my point is, other than that, this and the Wonder Woman story, they both. I mean, I went off on Wonder Woman a few months ago because the latent and overt feminism in Wonder Woman is, I think, actually dehumanizing to women. And we talked about that a little bit here, but this story and the Wonder Woman Tom King story and their it's not even distrust of authority. It's the portrayal of a particular type of person as intrinsically and irrevocably evil. Right? There is a not so subversive or not so covert subversion that is going on in these stories, not because they're talking about a conspiracy, but because the size of the conspiracy has to be so great that there are no good guys. Right? So it's like,
which again, though, just reminds me of what I now know about reality. But
right, but that's the thing is I think in some ways we're programmed to think we know this about reality, but like a lot of it's not true, right? Like the big meme from a few weeks ago or a couple months ago was, oh, the CIA was behind the JFK
everything,
killing, right? Everything, particularly the JFK killing, right?
Yeah,
that's not actually what's in the files,
right?
What's in the files is that the CIA was acting as a PR firm. That's actually what was in the files, right? And people don't want to admit or understand that PR and propaganda are the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? Public relations is by its advertising is too, guys. Those are propaganda. Propaganda isn't always a bad thing. Propaganda is telling one side of the story, right? So when Ace Hardware tells you about their great selection and leaves out the fact that Menards probably has a better selection, that's propaganda.
Right.
Now, if Ace said, now you have a bigger selection of stuff at Menards, but our stuff is a better quality, now that's that, and start making an argument back and forth, it stops being about propaganda and starts being about making your case. Right? But in your 30-second ads, every 30-second commercial you've ever seen is pure propaganda. It's them trying to sway you by only telling one side of the story.
Yeah.
But it's not evil to tell one side of the story in a 30-second ad.
Dave Barry once said that all advertising is basically them telling you something that you don't believe. You know, they say Coke is it because you don't think that Coke is it. So they say,
otherwise you
it.
wouldn't need the ad, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's also why Coke doesn't advertise as much as their competitors. I mean, they still advertise, but they don't need to as much as their competitors because people are drinking it in mass.
Pepsi's the choice of a new generation because it wasn't.
It wasn't.
But they're convincing you that it is.
Yeah, exactly. And so And so when with this kind of a story, right? It's obviously a propaganda piece because it's painting everybody who's not us as evil, right?
Yeah.
And because it's not even just like you look at Long Halloween, right? Actually, let's go back further. You look at Batman Year One,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of crooked cops. There's a couple of good cops, right? And there's the mob, right? And the good cops aren't perfect, but they know that there is a standard they're shooting for. You see the fallenness and the brokenness of Jim Gordon, yet he's clawing for the good and the perfect. Even if he's not getting there, he knows that exists out there, and he's a tortured within his own self, right? And we did our review, and I said I didn't think when they needed to have the full affair to get the point of this moral quagmire as an aspect, but he definitely can't miss the point with that.
Yeah,
plot point where he's not a perfect man. He just wants to be a good man. He wants to be a better man, right? And Bruce is in the same situation where maybe he's a little off his nut a little bit, but he's got these motivations and he's got this drive, and so you get to see this very human story of people striving for something that they can see of the ideal. And then you have Flass and you have Falcone, and they're not interested in their better angels at all, right? And you see, and so you have this interplay between them. But not everybody who is a cop or everybody who is a politician is automatically the bad guy. It's just easier to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
Right? That I like. That's story I can like. Right. You have some of the same stuff going on in Long Halloween. You see that stuff happening in Batman stories all the time.
Yeah.
But in this story, there's only one good guy. And he's an asshole.
Yeah.
And everybody else, well, okay, Bullock and the Bat Family and Gordon are good guys.
Yeah.
But all of the heads of the chiefs of industry, all of the city fathers, everybody at the circus, everybody at the circus is evil. Like, what are you trying to say?
Everybody's in on the conspiracy, which makes
they want
to
let you believe that Lincoln March is a decent guy, at least as of now. You don't find out till later that he's actually involved in this and like one of the guys orchestrating everything that's happening.
And so what we have Snyder telling a story where your family are bad. Yeah. Like everybody you know is bad. It's an isolation story. It's not a story about people striving to be better. It's an isolation story, right? It's the same kind of thinking that, you go away to college and you find out all your family are racist. Well, maybe they only hang out with white people because they live in a backwoods, canyon somewhere and out in a holler and there's nobody else around.
Yeah.
There's the implication that the Waynes before the Bat Family were not in on it because they keep hunting the Waynes down every single time.
Well, this is something
right, and I mean, and it kind of looks like maybe, and from this one, it looks like Alan may have broken with the Owls, and that's why they killed him.
Maybe the Waynes before Alan were involved, and he was the first break, but at least everyone after him wasn't.
Right.
Yeah,
but Dick's family, they're all evil.
Yeah,
it's like
well, we don't know that. We just know that one of his ancestors was.
Everyone who's involved in the circus. So it has to be his direct family too to get the tooth thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know when he. When.
Right.
You're right. When did they take him off to give him the teeth? And did his parents know that? And and I don't even know if since I don't know what happens after issue 7. I don't know if anything is explained about like what happened to Bruce's parents. Not that they didn't just die from street criminals, but
it only gets worse.
I assume that's where it's going from the moment that you say
they're still in rebirth.
Yeah. There's always been every now and then in Batman's history, somebody comes up with a story about, the wealthy people that were running this or that wanted him dead and they had a, cover story that they would gun him down, and this would be explaining because they wanted him dead for either he helped a mob boss or he, it's been various things throughout 50, 60, almost 100 years of history, but I think that doesn't work, because if Batman's story isn't crime killed my family, then what is he doing? He actually should be entirely devoted to taking down the Court of Owls. Then it should just be a singular mission to do that, because
and then he never does, right? Because they actually rebranded in Rebirth. Do you know what they are now?
What?
The Parliament of Owls.
Parliament of Owls, yes.
Oh,
because
they're international.
Okay.
Yeah.
See that, but like you say, this has a problem with comic books, is that, I mean, it was interesting that Lex Luthor was a very, very powerful billionaire, so powerful that you could put him in prison and he's out an hour later. Well, now everybody's out an hour later, but back then that was just Lex Luthor who was out an hour later, and that was Lex Luthor, But if every person in America is just a bad guy, every billionaire is a bad guy, every multi-millionaire is a bad guy, and Bruce Wayne's the one good one. Well, Oliver Queen's also a good one. No, his family's bad too, but he's the good guy, and then he gave up all his money, so then he's really good because he's not a billionaire. But there's got to be some good people in order to make the bad people stand out.
Well, and here's
unique,
Oh, yeah. And here's the Ollie Queen thing that gets me crazy, or the Sean Gordon Murphy. Oh, my family's wealth was built on crookedness, and so I'm going to give all my money away. You know what you did, Bruce? You shot your ability to make any more money and do anything good after that. Yeah. So you had one shot to do something, and you screwed the pooch. You could have just kept that thing in the stock market and took your profits and started, a million charities off of something like that.
It's like Bruce, or do you mean Oliver Queen?
But both of them.
Oh, okay.
Sean Gordon Murphy in the follow up to White Knight, The Curse of the White Knight, I think it was. He has this whole Bruce Wayne finds out that his.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. It's the
White Knight was good. The sequel, not so much.
Is it a Batman thing, or is it?
It's a Batman thing. Yeah.
Oh, I've never even heard of it.
It's a pocket world. They try to give him his own little Murphyverse off of it too, and
So Batman, White Knight, and his whole Murphyverse. It's Sean Gordon Murphy picking up where he thinks or where he feels the animated series left off. So it's all the characters are influenced very much by their animated universe background.
Is that the name of the writer, or is this a
Sean
character?
Gordon Murphy? Yep.
Oh, okay. I thought that there was a whole new they wouldn't introduce a Sean Gordon Murphy. He would be black or Hispanic or something.
No.
I thought you were introducing a new Batman character in another universe. Okay, so this is the writer. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was like, they wouldn't introduce a Scottish character in the 2010s or whatever.
No.
Okay.
Murphy's a really good artist, and the first one is amazing.
Okay.
I will tell you this much: I was convinced before White Knight that every Joker story had been told. They ought to kill him off. He'll never be any good in anything ever again. I was so sick of the Joker and stuff. And his Joker in White Knight, it's revelatory. It's so good. But now they should kill him off because every Joker story has been told. Yeah, he's entirely played out. And his follow up was not good. It was okay. I mean, yeah, it wasn't good. Especially the ending of it, because it was a very white guilty. I'm sorry that I have money. Now please buy my comic book. So I'm like, you could not have money really easy, Sean. Really easy. I've been doing it my entire life.
Yeah.
So
I've always wondered, how is it that Batman can afford to make huge donations to everything and also run this hugely expensive side thing that he hides from everybody? And it's like, how does he have this much money? And it's
artists because artists aren't accountants, Hutch.
Yeah. I
not quite, Isaac.
Okay, that's a best comment. That guy won the.
I don't think the Wayne shop it either. They've got help that does that for them.
Yeah, that's the ticket. So, yeah, here we go. Isaac has the greatest point here. If everyone is evil, why hide it? Just take over and change the rules and live in the new world. Yes.
Everyone's evil just becomes Sin City.
Well, and the other thing about it that I dislike about this take on it is it's like if you wanted to do an everyone is evil story, like I'm down for that because like I believe everyone is evil. Right? But evil has a different definition under that idea, right? Not everyone is reprobate, and everyone is broken, and everyone is evil, and everyone is out for themselves all the time, always, and we're all stupid and we're all wrong. Because right is very rare, and right is something that God is, and you are not God, and therefore you are wrong. That doesn't mean we don't have reason, and we can't see that truth is out there, and we can't shoot for it, and we know you're going to miss. Every day you're going to say the wrong thing, and you're going to do the wrong thing, and you're going to hurt the people that you care about the most, and you're going to hurt the people that you don't even know exist, right? But our failures point toward truth, and the problem I have in this story is that it's not actually pointing toward a truth. It's pointing toward that it's just the conspiracy becomes so large, and family and life and everything are so cheapened that there's nothing to shoot for, right? It's like and so many stories are like a fast track to nihilism, right? But they're framed in such a way.
Why isn't Twitless here?
It's framed in such a way that like lures people into not noticing that they are that maybe they're the corrupt ones, because it paints the rich people as the bad guys, and it paints the family, the father figures as the bad guys, and so every external locus of control is evil, but maybe I'm Batman, maybe I'm the pure one.
Right? Yeah, and this fundamentally just doesn't work with like Batman as a story, because Bruce is unapologetically the most optimistic person in not just like Gotham, but in DC Comics, right? He wouldn't be doing what he's doing if he wasn't. He believes that somewhere in there is the best in people, which is why they even can be rehabilitated at all. Even if they keep coming out and he has to keep fighting them, he believes that the best of you is in there somewhere. And he wants to help everyone in Gotham.
And that's one of the things that but see that whole take and everything, even like the introduction of Professor Pig, and later on the transition of Joker to having a man with his own face for a mask, right? The grotesqueness of that. It mocks the idea of hope, right? And so every the griminess, and like I love like morally ambiguous detective stories, right? But so I'm not trying to say those things can't exist, but this Court of Owls is such a big conspiracy, and it's the stakes, the moral and philosophical stakes are so high. Like I have plot problems with how that affects the universe, but the frame of all of this is so corrosive. And it's not that I think it's a thought that stops thought in some ways, and that's one of the things that I see in this story specifically is that corrosive nature of it all, and it's not in exclusion of this. It's not an exclusion of this. If this story was like an Elseworlds, right? If this story was an early story, and we're seeing where we can have an actual redemption angle. Even if you had the impression that this was a giant conspiracy and it turns out to be 5 people, at the end of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, or we got some sort of history of the owls, and we can kind of see where it's going from here. But it's still maskless. It's faceless. I mean, it's masked. It's faceless. It gives the impression that this is just this giant thing that taints the entire like world of these characters.
Instead of being the Knights Templar, it's the Illuminati.
Yeah.
Yes.
I get tired of Illuminati stories because there's this Illuminati and there's another Illuminati and everybody has their own Illuminati comic books. It's like there's too many Illuminatis.
For me, it's more the problem that Deep State easily gets confused with the idea of Illuminati, because we don't just have a bunch of rich old world families, doing dirty things with money and working together here. We have to have your underground secret society where we get together and put on hoods and chant in Latin, every week. And it's like, we are the such and such organization.
Right.
People are always managing to accidentally merge these two things. And unfortunately, it waters down what I believe is a very important truth about our society, especially if you're going to fight it, right, is that it turns it into a fairy tale, some crazy, fictional thing that you would just assume can't possibly exist.
Right. Well, and that goes into the idea of locus of control, right? The idea of you have what you can control versus what you can't control, right? And so when people point all the power in, them out there, then they're not looking at what they themselves are at. And what people, I think, mistake about the Deep State is the Deep State isn't like some shadow government that really runs everything, and there's not a secret cabal. It's just a bunch of people that do what they're told, and bend it to their own self-interest, right?
I can't remember who it was who said it, but he said, no conspiracy is needed where interests align. Okay? Well, these people know what they need, and they know what they need to get it.
Well, and the thing is, too, is you don't have to have a conspiracy when it's just the way people think, right? So, like this kind of I think that this is an explicitly like leftist, anti-establishment, anti-traditional story, right? But I don't think that Scott Snyder goes to his his weekly secret society meeting and puts a hood up and says, "This is how I'm going to ruin Batman."
Yeah.
He believes that he's an anti-establishment punk rock guy when all he does is serve the needs of the establishment through things like this, right? And because he doesn't know what the establishment is, right? That's part of
he's just a typical modernist. That's all it is.
Because
he's not even a postmodernist. He's just a modernist.
Yeah, he went to school. He absorbed the fake economics. He thinks that the political compass is accurate. He thinks that fascism is a right-wing idea. And it's not, because it's Marxist down to its very bones. Fascism is mid-stage Marxism, right? The next stage from fascism is anarchy. That's what they think they're going to. It's because fascism is another word for totalitarianism. So revolution, totalitarianism, step 3, and then anarchist utopia. That's what Marxism is. So every fascist was just they were biding their time until magic step 3 happened, and it never does. Stalin never figured it out. Pol Pot never figured it out. Mao never figured it out, because there is no freaking step 3. It stops at totalitarianism.
See what to get back to the what I was talking about, like, there's got to be good guys and bad guys, and that doesn't mean that there are people who are untouchable. But it's like, if you don't mind me using just because it's a one that comes to mind, everybody in the world knows that Pelosi is running things that affect the stock market, and her husband is trading in the stock market with knowledge of what she's going to be doing next month. That's obvious to everybody. And there's been a very good stat of here's how, these people who are paid not even $200,000 a year, and there's millionaires and multi-millionaires in the Congress, but there's people who are in the Congress who hate this and are working against it and want to try to, say this should not be allowed and we should be passing these rules. It's not enough to just say, well, of course they're Congress, they're all corrupt, because there's people who are saying, you shouldn't be able to leave Congress and immediately become a lobbyist. There's all kinds of people on, Republicans and Democrats. There's people trying to change this system. They generally aren't the most powerful people because they're the good guys, and that kind of keeps them from becoming that powerful, But if you just say they're in Congress, they're all bad, then you can't have bad guys. You have
you
this,
do
there's no
though
scale.
have a lot of career politicians who are just there to sell out to whatever is going to make them the most out of something.
Sure.
And so there's always going to be this range of the actual inner circles versus the sellouts versus I could probably count on one or two hands the number of people who I would say are actually fully sold out, devoted to stopping this and fixing as much as they can.
Right.
Especially when a lot of the people, it's been going for so long, they've managed to fix the system so that the second you get in there, you may be like, all right, here I am, I got elected, now I'm going to change this world, right? And then next thing you know, well, in order to change this world, I got to stay in office. And if I'm going to stay in office, I got to make I got to have money, which means I got to make these people happy. And if any of these things I care about make these people unhappy, now what do I do, right? And people get sucked into the system and they become, sometimes the most true blue people end up becoming the most corrupt people, right?
Yeah, and there is some of that too. And then you also have the career bureaucrats that because that's what the real deep state is. It's not the elected officials. It's the people that work for the elected officials. They're staffers because they trade staffers back and forth. And staffers don't always do what they're told. And that's one of the aspects. But it's also the people that are in the bureaucracies.
Right.
We shouldn't even, in many ways, we shouldn't even have bureaucracies because that's a subversion.
Amen.
The bureaucracies are a subversion and of the constitutional system. It's Congress wanting to not do its job, and so they empower the executive branch to have bureaucracies to run things that should be being done by the Congress or by the states. And that's a big part of it. And working for the government as I do, I understand what I'm saying here.
Yeah,
but
you know why I miss Twitless? I'll tell you right now why I miss Twitless. If Twitless was here right now, he'd be making sure that we stayed on Comic Talk.
Sorry.
I mean,
that's true.
I think what I was just saying though is relevant to talking about the Court of Owls.
Right.
Is like
I know, but we just got onto like a really big, like long tangent.
Yes,
that got off of it.
You see,
I'm not unhappy that we did because.
So and here's the thing is Isaac says, so what is the perfect system? The perfect system is a system that
is not made by humans.
Fits back in the box. There you go. Whatever's in heaven.
Yeah.
The practical system we have, honestly, the Constitution is nearly as perfect as a system can be. It's a great machine. We just ought to do what the manual says with it.
Right.
That's
it's
part
a system that has to be kept up, and the problem is we get lazy.
Needs to be maintained. The machine needs to be maintained.
Right.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't want to sound all doom and gloom about it, but the reason I brought this topic up specifically, although I think it's germane to the comment before, but I did bring this up specifically. Yes, it is, but if you ever hear somebody say, the perfect system is me running everything with an army of doomed bots, obviously. That's amazing. The reason I bring this up is because Cartoonicus earlier said that you don't need a conspiracy where interests align. But the reason I brought this up specifically is you don't need a conspiracy when everybody thinks the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to plan everything when that's what's in the wind, when that's what's in the water, right? When that's what's in the air is these ideas of us versus them, these ideas that we're the only good ones, right? And even though I have a very big bias politically, that part of that bias is that one of the reasons I'm a small government guy is the more the government gets involved in people's business and in telling them how to do things, the less that allows people to make the right choices. Now, I happen to have very strong opinions of what those right choices are, but you can't make a right choice if you don't have the opportunity to make a wrong choice. And you can't learn anything if you don't have the opportunity to ignore everything you're told, right? Those things have to come along with free will. And you can't discuss free will if your worldview assumes that you're going to be a victim of everything else around you. Right? And that's one of the things that I dislike about this story is that it presumes a world where there just isn't the hope of making good choices.
Mm-hmm.
For everybody except Batman.
Oh, but hold on. If you'll put my screen up, I want to bring us to those last few pages.
Okay.
Because Grayson says something very, very different from what you just said.
Yeah.
And where is it here?
It's after that.
Yeah, it's after a bunch of them. Where he goes back on, Bruce was, again, lamenting that, the Gotham he thought he knew was gone. And then, where does he say it, right? He's like, you have no idea the stuff I've been learning myself, which, by the way, is going to tie into the very arc that Grayson has been on in his own comic this whole time.
I'm going to switch to mine because it's bigger.
Oh, I can zoom in. I can always zoom in. But, yeah, this is where he's saying, he's like, we aren't, we are who we choose to be, right? I don't care what's been set up in the past. I can always choose to do the right thing in the end. So I do want to go against, I wouldn't say this story is entirely nihilistic. I
love that the next line, the just another bad guy. They're just another bad guy.
Right. I like that, this idea that Bruce is getting an awakening, that I've always hated that whole I am Gotham concept that they give him.
Mm-hmm. I can give you that maybe that's what Snyder is saying he's trying to do for Batman, but it's not just another bad guy. Like, that's not a true statement, right? Like, Dick's parents were going to sell him off to be an assassin. Dick's parents were going to sell him off to be an assassin. That's not something you just walk away from.
Yeah.
I don't care how like positive you are.
I'm not so sure that is. If you've read the Nightwing arc.
Yeah, and I haven't. I'll be honest about that. But once again, he got the.
It is true that this is kind of
some way, and he's had it the entire time, right? And it's Haley Circus exists to provide these assassins.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what's interesting about how these two and others, I'm sure, tie into each other. This was what I learned. This was my awakening when I got this comic, is that superhero comics, at least in the modern day, do not exist in a vacuum. I love, like I said, the size of the Bat family, and I would love to just read a comic about it. But instead, we have to have a Batman title, and a Nightwing title, and a Batgirl title, and a Batwing title, and a Robin title, and a Batman and Robin title, right? And they're trying to do everything they can to get you to buy as many comic books as you possibly can. And so then they break the story up and tie them all into each other, so that you're reading the various different little versions of one big story, right?
Mm.
And that's why I feel like we have another night to see this from the other side. It is really interesting. If I may, if you've still got me up, I'd like to show you how this whole conversation happens again at the end of Nightwing's arc. Right? You wouldn't notice that's the difference. It looks like the same artwork, doesn't it? Right?
No.
Oh man, but this is literally the same conversation, word for word, right?
Well, how tedious.
He goes through all the same stuff. He hits him. He gets the tooth, right?
That's the other.
Yeah.
That's the other hand.
And they both end with this line, right? You're not Gotham, Bruce. Or they're not Gotham, and neither are you. Which actually, I really love that line. What's funny is how in one writer's, or at least one artist's perspective, Grayson seems to say this with quite an amount of hope, as if he's comforting Bruce and trying to help him out. Whereas in the other, this whole story arc seems to end with them trying to portray Dick Grayson as this angry renegade teenager. That's the one thing I really hated about this. And even reading it the second time, I was going, okay, I really don't think I like this story arc. Yeah, the New 52 started doing this. They tried to turn him into Jason Todd, and I don't know why, because we already have a Jason Todd. But yeah, this is a reason we might want to go over this story arc and see where that comes at the same concept, all the owls and Grayson's backstory and everything from a very different angle. So, just putting that out there.
I'd probably skip that episode.
But you've actually read it. You have something to say.
I like Nightwing. Well, I did like Nightwing. I liked him when Chuck Dixon was writing him, and then who took over? Devin Grayson, and like she immediately undid everything like in a matter of months. Just he was like a cop, and she was like, okay, he's not a cop anymore, and he completely solved the whole problem of the mob in Bloodhaven. Now he's done. It's like really. It worked so hard setting all that up,
Yeah.
So I have no idea what his status is. I know that he was a spy called Grayson for a while, and then
I wanted to check that out actually.
I don't know what.
I've read a few issues. They're okay.
Mm.
It doesn't really make sense in the world as it is. It would have made a lot of sense in year 6.
I could tell I still probably won't like what they're doing with his character because he's not just this like angry rebellious kid. He's like this party boy who's like sleeping around with girls and stuff. It's just like, since when is this Grayson?
Yeah.
Kind of always.
Oh, come on now.
He was always a charmer for sure.
Dick, ever since he got to college, is kind of a man whore. Well, that's not
depends who's writing him. Depends who's writing him. Yeah.
But I think even as a teenager, he wasn't loose or anything, but he was very flirtatious. Like he would try to charm people.
Yeah. What I really mean is it's not really fair to call him a man whore, but he was a serial monogamist.
Yeah. He was dating Corey for ages, and then he was dating Barbara, and then
it would be a thing where like he'd be dating a girl, and they'd be in bed together or whatever, and then they'd break up and they'd get a different girl, and he was with Corey for a really long time, and then there was a series of short relationships, and then there was Barbara for a long time, and then that didn't work out because somebody got tired of them together, and then the New 52
right,
happened.
but that's just him going from one relationship to another. This is we're talking about where in just like a single panel, it's like he meets some girl and hey, let's jump on Wayne's private jet and fly to Italy together like some playboy.
He and Huntress before with Barbara, he and Huntress had a fling. That was that was an unfortunate aspect of a pretty decent miniseries. That really took away from the tension in that miniseries.
Which miniseries?
It was a Nightwing Huntress.
Oh,
Devin. I think it was Devin Grayson wrote that actually.
Oh, okay.
Grayson. His name is Grayson.
Her name.
And she named herself after him.
Yeah. She changed her name.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a whole mess of a story I don't want to talk about. Anyway.
Anyway, we end
So,
up
Court of
with-
Owls, final words, because we've been at this long enough.
Almost 3 hours.
It's hard
Oh
to
my
have
gosh,
final
it is.
words on something that doesn't finalize when you're reading it.
Yeah.
Yes.
How do you end a trade paperback like that?
This was an origin story. I mean, this picture right here should say it all, right?
Yeah.
Because from here on, we went to the Night of the Owls, we went to Talon. This was an origin story for the big new, thing that DC was going to be doing. That's really what's going on here. It works a lot better, as much as I dislike it, in the Grayson storyline, because it's actually connected to him. Whereas in this, that final conversation between him and Bruce kind of just comes out of nowhere. Oh, by the way, he's your grandfather. What?
Well, the problem though is collectively to go all the way through. I mean, they kind of always stay in the background going forward, but to actually go through the storyline with Owlman where it actually finishes, you have to read collectively like 100 different issues.
No, man. Yeah.
Owlman or Talon?
The same person.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Lincoln March, Thomas Wayne Jr. He's
Okay.
both Talon and he also goes by Owlman. Like they're both aliases of him.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's not confusing at all.
Yeah. Well, because he goes from being like this generation's Talon, because the other one that Dick's like great grandfather was not this generation's Talon. He goes from being the current Talon to then also branding himself as Owlman because he is like the representative of the Court of Owls. He kind of splits from it. He starts doing his own thing.
Which is so
It
stupid.
is confusing. It's just
Oh my
it's
gosh.
stupid. Yeah.
Can I just point out how I do not like the way Batman is written for ages now. And it's this thing where he can't have a just normal human conversation with Dick Grayson, who has been essentially his son for 4 years, 5 years, or 10 years, or 20 years, depending on which continuity. And it's like he punches him in the mouth rather than say, I need to check this tooth, hold still, and I'm going to use a tool. He punches him in the face, and then he says, by the way, this is your grandfather. And it's like, Batman, I've said it again many times. It's like, even in like early 90s, I've read books and it's like Batman comes across as caring and kind. And this is in the Batman continuity. It's like when Tim's parents were lost, remember, and in the jungle, he's like, oh man, I don't know what I'm going to tell the boy. This is going to be really hard for him. And it's like, this is Batman having, an emotional connection with somebody else. And it's like, you never see that in these books anymore. Batman
we all
should be
know-
saying, I'm sorry, this is your
Killer
great
ruins
grandfather.
Batman,
Are
right?
you feeling okay?
Yeah.
You should be doing that.
9/11 ruined
You know what?
comics. Miller ruined Batman.
I would
And
say
9/11 ruined Miller.
maybe Barry just had a very low opinion of Bruce, and this is what he thought he was like when he set the world straight.
Jeez.
Oh man, why'd you got to end it with that? No, yeah. Well, once again, I am going to say that this is a reflective of that intrinsic leftist nihilism. I think that you can't have a Batman who is, because here is the dichotomy that modern people don't get. You can enact justice and have compassion. Those are not opposite ideas. But the nihilist, that soft nihilism of progressive thought can't comprehend the two ideas that they can coexist together. And that's, I think that's what we have, is we've got all these coastal elites who don't understand that you can love somebody and discipline them, that you can love somebody and hold them accountable to justice. And those things can happen at the same time and need to happen at the same time.
Which is like the whole reason Arkham Asylum exists in the first place.
Yep. So, okay. We got to go. Got to call it. Got to call the show done. It's been long enough. I've not had supper and I'm getting hungry.
Oh,
Getting
sorry.
ready. No, it's fine. It's a decision I always make. So, anyway, next week. Oh, I'm sorry. Does anybody else have final thoughts? I don't want to be rude.
Yeah. So after all we've said about it, honestly, I don't think this is the worst book. It's not great story.
Oh, no. We've read worse things
it holds
recently.
a special place in my heart because, as I said, this was kind of a reboot for me in terms of this was where I actually started reading hero comics for real, as well as buying comics, at all for the, at the age of 25, 26, 27 years old. I had just never, as a kid, I read lots of newspaper comics and picked up Tintin from the library and stuff. But, had never really touched superhero comics other than, watching cartoons and stuff. And so one day I was like, you know what? I really want to check out Batman and see what they're doing the whole New 52 thing now. We'll see what that's all about. So, there's just some kind of history there. It starts my journey. There were definitely things that I discovered immediately I did not like. And certain things that I did. Overall, I have this kind of weird fascination I've picked up over the last few days while I've been rereading these of how, just realizing how the two stories, like I was saying, kind of work together. And it's like, oh my. Reading one, I'm like, I get it now. Certain things about that make a whole lot more sense than they did before. But it also points out it's like this would have gotten so huge if I had actually continued following any of this. It would have been a disaster. And the third thing I learned by picking up this book was modern Batman is dark. Like, it gets really dark and depressing and violent. And after a while, I just have to put it down. It's like, okay, no more Batman for the next 6 months because it's starting to affect my outlook on life. Like, what is the deal with the writers of this thing? How messed up do you have to keep pushing each and every story? So, what do I ultimately think? There's kind of like a lot of meh that oddly enough pays off in that last scene with him and Grayson in just some very interesting ways. And even though I may be alone in thinking that any of that is good, just that's the thing that I remember about the story and always will, is just the unusualness with how it approached. Really, I'd never seen anything like that in Batman at all. So good or bad, it was like, well, this is interesting. And I guess that's what I have to say about it. This is interesting.
Well, that is a fun place to end. Next week, a much smaller story with much lower stakes. We're going to be looking at the miniseries Dakota North. And it's about a fashion designer who's also a private investigator. So, yep. Great stuff. That is the show. And sometime in the future, we're going to be looking at Deadpool and Batman, based on Twitless' suggestion. But that's when, next time he's able to make it, probably. See how it goes. So, until next time, keep your eye on the horizon for comics that you can read. I need a better sign off than that. That was terrible. I'm sorry, buddy. Okay, later.
We'll figure it out.
Did you just highlight yourself? Yes, I did.
It was not me. It was him.
No, it was me. I highlighted myself as a silent comment, a reaction to Cartoonica's statement. I didn't want to start over again. Later. Bye. That's the show. We need 10 bat pets. That's the closer right there. Later, everybody.